Well, I was telling us you were, when Mark died, you were at the VA hospital, just like I was.
If you have a cell phone, would you please place it on silent so there's no interruptions? Just turn it on. Did you hear me? He didn't think you could hear me.
I didn't think, I'm sorry.
Good evening and welcome to the Coffeyville City Commission meeting for Tuesday, March 13th, 2018. Tonight's invocation will be led by Pastor Randy Dupree of the First Assembly of God. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation.
We're gonna say the pledge first.
pledge.
No, sorry.
Okay, the other way around?
Invocation first,
Okay.
sorry.
All right. Well, I want to say this is my first time in this venue. What a great, beautiful place to meet, huh? And so things like this just make me want to praise the Lord. And I was reading, I'm going to read you 5 verses. I won't keep you a long time. I'll be like Elizabeth Taylor was with her 7 husbands. Won't be keeping you long. Okay? But 5 verses tonight. In 1 Chronicles 23, when David was old and full of days, he made Solomon his son king over Israel. David assembled all the leaders. I want to speak to you about leaders of Israel with the priests and the Levites. The Levites, 30 years old and upward, numbered man by man 38,000, of whom 24,000 were to oversee the work of the house of the Lord. 6,000 were to be the officers and the judges. And David said, 4,000 shall be gatekeepers, and 4,000 are to praise the Lord with the instruments with I made for praise. And so I'm thinking of this position that God has placed us in as gatekeepers for the city. When you talk about the commission, city manager, Francis, city attorneys, city clerks, all of you on the commission, gatekeepers. There's something important about a gate. It means that what's beyond the gate is more valuable than the gate. So it's our job to do that. So we just thank the Lord. Father, today we thank you that there's business to do. We thank you that there's decisions to be made. And although it's weighty and sometimes it's just difficult, even so that even our personalities, God, let them mold and blend and be for your glory, not for just individual needs, wants, or desires, but Father, for the greater good of the whole. I just pray for your glory to be in this room tonight, and the decisions that are made here tonight would glorify you, would better the community and everybody in it. Father, we just thank you for today. Thank you for the health that we enjoy. Nobody's out sick with the flu. They're all in this room. And so, Father, have your way among us. And as we do the business of the community of Coffeyville, we praise you for the good things that I see and I hear. In Jesus' name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hello, Clem. Moving into the consent agenda items, city commission meetings for Tuesday, February 27th, 2018, and 2018 appropriation ordinance number AO-18-05 in the amount of $896,062.69. Are there any questions or amendments to these first 2 items on the consent agenda?
I have a couple questions
Okay.
on some items in the appropriation ordinance, and mainly I think they're in the engineering, so I don't know if, Chuck, I could ask you maybe? just some questions. As I went through the appropriation ordinance, I just kind of highlighted on the larger items
Yeah.
and some to fill me in on
Okay.
what you've been doing since I'm still kind of new, but yet to bring the public to. I've got down Algar Martin, and I know there's a couple of things in there, but one of them in specific was the 166 Overlook Buckeye project for
Yeah, that's-
$2,000. I mean, that's part of it.
the KDOT Clink joint repair and also stormwater inlet boxes.
Okay.
And Algar Martin is the
Designer.
did the design and inspection.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
that the work Graham's doing?
Yes, Jeff Graham.
In conjunction with that. Okay. The other one I had was BG Consultants. There's a couple on them, but the one is, they are working on the design for the safe routes.
Yes,
Um,
that's safe routes to schools,
okay.
sidewalks.
All right.
And where we're at on that, we're still waiting for the signed agreement from KDOT, but design was on us, so we were allowed to move forward. But KDOT has the field check plans in their office now they're reviewing, and then their next step will be a site visit. And KDOT will actually let this project,
Okay.
open bids on the project.
Okay. All right. Another one was Burns and McDonald Engineering. Okay, taxiway overlay construction, which that's obviously at the airport.
Yes.
This in one of those special projects that
It
we're
is,
doing, like
it
that we
is.
voted
This
the
was-
money for several weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is, was a taxiway overlay, actually milling and overlay of a taxiway at the airport, and this should be the final closeout engineering invoice.
okay, all right. Crossline Railroad contractor, for a crossing extension.
Yeah,
It's
what-
like $10,000, it's just.
Yeah,
we're-
what that one is, at the intersection of 14th and Walnut, it's part of the bigger Acme project where we're doing all those intersections, then we're gonna mill and overlay between them. But at the intersection of 14th and Walnut, we're widening that so the trucks can make that turn onto and off of the highway. And there's a railroad crossing right there at the intersection, so they had to extend their crossing so that we could do our work.
Okay.
And Graham is now working, actually today, he was working
I
on that
saw that.
intersection.
Okay, all right. And the last one for Trans Systems, for $12,700. Combination, is that with the CD,
Okay,
grants on, 10th Street? 'Cause I
Yeah.
noticed they're 10th and Gillum, 10th and Washita. Does that
Yeah.
have to do with the design on?
right, they're doing the
grant.
design on the water line replacement for
Okay.
both the CDBG project and then the project we're paying for ourselves from Gillum to Buckeye.
Okay,
And also, they're doing the design right now on the Gillum to Buckeye portion of it. We're still waiting for the CDBG we have to go through all the environmental review and everything. But we're moving forward with the west end of it and the water line replacement.
okay. Okay, that's all I had. Those were just the larger ones I was just curious about.
Did you
Sure.
say Gillum to Buckeye or Gillum to Hall?
It's Gillum to Buckeye.
Okay.
Our plan from Hall to Buckeye, after looking at it, it's in decent shape. We'll probably do a surface seal on it.
Any other questions?
No, I have no, I don't think there's any more questions. And I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Taylor and seconded by Mayor Bauer to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster,
Aye.
Mayor Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Doan.
Aye.
2018 appropriation ordinance number AO-18-05A, Iron Time Sales in the amount of $1,838.23. Questions or comments regarding this?
I have none. I'll move to approve appropriation ordinance number AO 18-02A for adoption.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Van Oster and seconded by Mayor Bauer to approve appropriation ordinance number AO-18-05A for adoption. Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Doan.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Abstain.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Moving into our regular agenda items, public hearing, special presentation, and proclamations. Presentation by Johnson Control on the AMI project. Dave Lyons from Johnson Control will make a presentation.
Thank you, Commissioners. I see a couple new faces up there. My name's Dave Lyons with Johnson Controls, and we started this process back in October of last year. I hope I can do this right without messing it up. I am technically challenged sometimes on these. So I will stand over here so I can kind of see that and speak to you guys too, but I think everybody can hear me. So again, back in October, Johnson Controls was selected. We kind of had a daunting task by the commissioners to come up with a project to improve the infrastructure within the city, and that's mainly looking at water meters, electric meters, city lightings, that sort of thing. And the daunting part was to do it without any capital infusion, right? So we've been working on that for a while, and that's kind of what this highlights here. So that agreement came back in October of last year. And from October to December of last year, these are the things that we've been working on. We did testing on meter accuracy. You see push-pulls. Basically, what that is, we took a statistical sample of the electric and water meters, basically took them out of the ground, replaced those meters, sent them off to a meter testing facility to have them tested on the accuracy. So that's what that, when I talk about push-pulls, that's what that is. Billing data and extraction, we had to pull data from, we drove Stephanie crazy getting data in to see where these meters are, what they're billing, what those readings are, that sort of thing. Meter locate, basically finding the meters across the town. So these are the many things that we did. We had to do the same thing with the street lights, the right type, right size. Basically, we were looking at, do you have a facility that has a 2-inch meter? Does it only need a 1-inch meter? Right? So we have to look at all those things to put this together. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that we went through in that 2-month period of time, probably 2.5 months there. Facility reviews, initially we started looking at all the buildings, right? So we wanted to see HVAC lighting, windows, roofs. We looked at all of it. We took the big swath and took it in and looked at all of it. During that time also, we started there working with Jim and Gene and Mike, everybody on the team, Stephanie, Kendall. We kind of narrowed that down, and then we issued, during that time frame, we issued RFPs for the meters, the AMI infrastructure, lighting, subcontractors, and that sort of thing. So we put the bids out to get prices back on that. The following one, from 12 to 2, we did basically all our workshops. So remember, this was a collaborative effort. This wasn't Johnson Controls saying this is what you're going to do. We, again, with Gene and Mike and the whole team back there, Jim and Chuck, we got together, and Stephanie and the whole team, we got together and did these workshops. We did the meter workshop, the lighting workshop, the facility workshops, where, again, talking about the roofs and windows and that sort of thing. And then from those workshops, Coffeyville chose the final project to develop, right? This works for us, this costs too much, this fits, this doesn't fit. Again, this was Coffeyville's decision in this process. So we developed that final scope, and then with the financial workshops, basically what we came up with, again, holistically as a team, collaboratively, that was water meters, electric meters, street lights, the AMI, the advanced meter infrastructure, and we'll talk about that here in a second, and the advanced meter infrastructure, and the downtown streetlights as well. So the city, the lighting within the facilities, we basically have approximately 12 facilities that we're looking at, and what we're doing in there is replacing with LED lights. Very similar to what you have here. Not saying we're replacing new fixtures everywhere, but we're converting everything to LED lights.
These are probably gonna have to come out here, aren't they?
Someday, right? But the LED light gives you much better light, better security throughout, makes a better working environment. Obviously, they last a whole lot longer. That's the biggest thing. You don't have to maintain them. Once you put them in, you're in good shape. And energy savings is a big thing. We needed those facility lights to help drive the rest of the project, right? So that's the facility lighting. On the exterior lights and what we're talking about here, the exterior lights of the buildings, same scenario, right? We're converting everything that's out there on these buildings to LED lighting. Street lights. This gets a little bit more critical. So we looked at the street lights. We basically broke these out. You see the area IDs. The Area 100 is actual traffic way lights, the roadway lighting. So that's what that is. The dusk to dawn lights, those are the pole lights that are in different locations, right? And then the security lights, those are the ones that are out on people's property that they pay for, scattered all over, all over. And we found that out as we're doing the tours, trying to put all this together, right? So basically those will be converted to LED as well. The only thing I want to emphasize here, we're not doing a retrofit on any of these fixtures. We're not doing a retrofit. We're actually replacing the actual fixture itself. The pole remains the same, the arm and the structure remains, but the head itself completely replaced. Because you can do a retrofit, but then you end up with the same fixture inside, wiring and that sort of thing. So we're replacing that fixture.
So on those, like, let's just take that one.
Sure.
How long does it take to pay off on that investment, on those street?
Pretty quick. We're gonna get into that here in
Okay,
just a
that's
second.
fine.
Yeah, and when we look at this project, we look at it as a bundle, right? So some of them are quicker payback, street lights because the labor aren't quite as quick a payback, but the building lights, for example, we can get in and retrofit these pretty quick. We don't have to have a crane and a bucket truck and all those sorts of things. So, but we're gonna touch on that, and great question, Jim. So this picture, this isn't Coffeyville, first of all, I'm gonna make that clear. But this is similar to what you're gonna see, right? So on the left is the old high-pressure sodium, which is what you have now on your streets. This new one on the LED, the one on the right, that's a LED, that's 4,000 Kelvin is what that 4,000 K stands for. That's exactly the fixture you guys will be getting here at Coffeyville.
So someone got up there and got that one with the old ones in the background.
Yes, they do, yep. And you can see if you look on down that road, you can see the yellow in there. So quite a contrast. And again, there's a lot to that. Better color rendition, safety. I mean, and you're eliminating those dead spots, that sort of thing. Another thing we were able to fit in this project, which is really tough to do, but we were able to do this because we knew it was a big wish for the city, is to get those downtown streetlights redone, right? Because we've got the old globes and some of them are falling off, some of them don't work, that sort of thing. Well, we were able to get this in the project, so those downtown streetlights, and we identified that as Area 400, those post tops will be all brand new LED. Again, not retrofitted, new post, top, the whole 9 yards is gonna be replaced on those. So, and just so you know, again, working with Mike and Gene and Kendall, of course, that one of the issues there was, one of the things we really wanted to see was plug-ins available on them so they can plug, the Christmas lights and that sort of thing on. So we were able to get that. We got plug-ins in those as well. So you'll be able to do all kinds of neat stuff. This is gonna come up in 3, so I'm just gonna run through this here. So I told you we did the AMI workshops, correct? So this is what we did in those AMI workshops. Basically what we did through those workshops, we narrowed it down, again, with, in this case, we're talking about water meters. So with the help of Jim and Chuck, we narrowed these down to a few different ones that best fit the city of Coffeyville. And then again, Coffeyville made the final decisions on it. We just kind of downgraded it. And through those workshops, we looked at each one, kind of give the positives and the negatives of each one, because each one of them have a plus and a minus. And then let Coffeyville make the difference, or make the decision on it. So I just put this up here so you can kind of see what we did. There's a lot of work that went into this. Then we did the same thing for the electric meters. Basically, the exact same thing. We did that workshop with Gene and Mike as well. The recommendations for the workshops and the AMI, the advanced meter infrastructure, in case for the new commissioners that don't really know, maybe don't know what that is, but the advanced meter infrastructure is basically the device, if you will, but it's citywide, that pulls all the information from these new meters together and sends it to the billing department so everything can be billed automatically, that sort of thing. So it's that network that's across the city. And we looked at a couple different ones. Matter of fact, I'll just touch on that right here. So the final selection ended up being from the city of Coffeyville was the Open Wave Riva AMI system, again, advanced meter infrastructure. The reason that was chosen is because it says there, up there, open protocol. Well, maybe it doesn't, it should. So open protocol basically means it's open for anybody's fixtures, any other points, so it doesn't have to be an Itron system. Anybody can plug into it, right? So for future development within the city, this will outlast all of us, right? So it's the latest and greatest technology, but it's adaptable. So anything that goes on, you can make your streetlights smarter, whatever you want to do. Drive smart cars down the road. This will actually
G4, G5.
4G. This is 4G. Yeah. Is that right, Doug? Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah. So 5G is not quite here yet, but it's adaptable. This is actually adaptable. So you got to be ready. Unfortunately, you got to be ready for 5G. It's coming. So they also selected Itron electric meters for various reasons and census water meters. So again, we were put to the daunting task of, we don't want to spend a lot of money to do this, right, out of pocket. We were able to do that. We were able to get that done. What you see here is we have a project with zero capital contribution from the city of Coffeyville. It cash flows over a 16-year term, $5.7 million, $5.796994 to be exact. But basically what that number, what you're getting for that 5.7 million approximately is 6,200 new electric meters replaced, 3,400 water meters, that citywide infrastructure, again, to pull all that data together, 1,900 new LED lights in that 1, 2, basically your street lights, if you will, and your security lights. All those will be new, and that comes with the GIS mapping and the GPS locate. Again, that's data that will go into your asset management system, so you're gonna know where that pole's at, where that light's at, all those sorts of things. You're gonna have that mapped and all that data available to you. New LED decorative downtown lighting, again, there's no energy savings there. When we're looking at this, we're looking at things that can save costs, but downtown streetlights, that was a capital expense, but we were still able to get that done with savings that we garnered from other places. So it was a great fit. It's gonna beautify the downtown area. And then the LED lighting throughout the building. Again, this is a great example of what you're gonna see in the other places. So in the green here are some of the things that you're gonna get as well. So utility billing data integration. This is a huge thing. It doesn't sound like much up there, just a line, but it's a big deal. Basically, we help Stephanie and her team pull all this new data, because you're gonna have tons and tons of data. So we gotta pull that together and put it in the existing billing system and make it all work and function. We take care of that. That's on us, right? Community outreach, what I mean there is somebody's got to put the door hangers on. Somebody's gotta contact all the community that, hey, we're gonna be out, you're scheduled for this area, your block, next week at 10 o'clock, you're gonna have people out there. It won't be quite that narrow of a window, but next week, we're gonna be out at your place, and somebody's gotta do that. And then somebody's also gotta take all the phone calls with questions that, hey, what's this meter gonna do? What's it look like? What's it gonna do for me? All those sorts of things. We take that on. We're actually gonna have a trailer here where all that happens, a dedicated phone line where we take care of all that. So when we say community outreach, there's a lot to that. All the PR, all those sorts of things, we take care of as well.
How long does that last for?
The whole project?
No. Those services that you're gonna be helping Stephanie and her team.
During the whole project.
Okay.
So everything is set and done. That's a nice thing about the way that this is set up, the financing we have set up. If you don't pay us a dime till this thing is done.
So how long is it?
You sign on. Doug, what do we figure, about a year?
Yeah, 12 months, the estimated installation time, 12 months.
Yeah, approximately 12 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, we can get done sooner than that. We'll have teams in here, but
Yeah.
we're here the whole duration.
Okay.
Right. And we have project managers, we'll have somebody dedicated to take the phones. We'll have all of that. Nearly $5.8 million of modernization throughout the city, infrastructure improvements, zero capital, and again, we were able to do that. Probably the biggest thing to the community zero tax increase, zero rate increase, and you're getting your infrastructure upgraded, right? So that's a big deal. That's a big, big deal. The other thing is turnkey. Turnkey is, I keep saying big deal, but this is a big deal. They're all big deals, I guess. So turnkey, that means it's all on us. You know, one throat to choke, and that's mine, basically. So if something don't go right, I get the call eventually. No change orders. Once this price is set, it's done. So if we get out there and we find something not like we thought it was going to be, we don't come back to you and say, hey, we need more money, we missed it. No, that's on us. We should have caught it. We take care of that. Now, let me clarify that. If somewhere down through the project you say, I want to change something, or I want to add more, or I want to do something else, that would be a change. But anything within the scope, the defined scope, there's no change order for that. Which basically results in risk transfer. Risk transfer from the city back to us. Financially, physically, all of it is back to us. The results are guaranteed, and we'll do that through an annual measurement and verification. I mean, every year, we're gonna be back looking at the utility bills and those sorts of things, making sure that this is actually done what it says it will do. And you'll get those reports on an annual basis. So, I know I ran through that really, really quick, and so I'm just gonna shut up and answer any questions that you may have. Again, I'm trying to be conscious of your time as well.
Okay. How do you get paid? You told us once, okay? Refresh my memory, Dave, on how you make money.
Yep, absolutely. We make money like a general contractor. It's the same thing, right? So only we take care of the financing on the back end. So we actually go out and secure the money. We do this project, then obviously once it's complete, you all sign off on it, that it's good. Then the payments would start. So those payments would come to us, we would have, and this will all be set up and fixed what those payments are. We haven't done that yet because we're not really sure exactly what those finance rates and those sort of things. So that's, after tonight, we'll have that amount. But whatever those benefits are for the year, you will basically make us a payment for those benefits. If we do the measurement verification or the measurement and verification is done and we're not making those benefits, then you only pay us that amount that you did see, right? So let's say, for the new commissioners here, so let's say your payment to us was $1,000 a year, but we did the measurement verification, it got checked, and said, no, I don't think we did $1,000 a year. We only saw $1,500 or $500 worth of benefits, let's say. Well, then you only write us a check. The next time the payment comes around, you only write us a check for $500. So basically, you hold the checkbook and
So how much is your investment on this? I mean,
$5.8 million.
so you have to go secure that much in,
We have to secure it. Yep.
over how many years did it say?
16 years.
16?
16. Yep.
So basically, we're seeing the savings, the city is,
Yep.
through our light bill.
Through your light bill, through operational benefits, all of that. Yep.
So
You're gonna see the savings.
where's this money come from that pays them? Just our general budget?
It will come from the savings we recognize, from the operational savings we recognize. We anticipate some additional revenues, at least on the water side, because we're certain of the inefficiencies that exist currently.
Right.
So that's where those savings are recognized, and additional monies are recognized. What I would say also is he gave you the example if our payment is $1,000 and he said if we only saw $500 worth of savings, that's all we paid. But if we see $1,200 in savings, we still only pay $1,000, and the difference comes back to the city. So.
It's a great point, Kendall. It's a locked-in maximum payment, payment maximum, but if we see if the city sees additional benefits, you keep that additional benefit.
So
But it could be less.
what was your investment again?
5.8,
5.8.
5.8.
16 years.
Plus, you gotta pay interest on that?
Yeah, oh yeah, just like anybody else, we got interest on it. So basically, what we do on the backside is we go out and find investors to pay, obviously, we're Johnson Controls still has to find that money. So we go on the backside and find the investors. So that way it doesn't hit your credit at all, it just hits ours, right?
So right now, what's the anticipated cost, what, $1 million a year?
Josh,
So that's not
Josh,
a
you
million.
back there, you know what the interest rate
362.
right now is?
362
And it's,
with no interest.
Right.
We
No
are,
interest. That's not
I
taking
think
interest.
the payments right now are
500.
calculated at 5% interest.
5%, okay, 5%, yeah. That's what it stands at right now.
Just
Okay.
real quick, the financing option still is still Copco's decision to make, whether we bring financing to the table. The fact of the matter is, the city could go secure financing if there's a better rate. We're not making money on the interest generally.
Right, I understand.
Because we are looking at traditional financing options as well. Springstead, in fact, about 5:30 this afternoon, sent us a report on traditional financing compared to this, but regardless of which option we use for financing, the guarantees still exist.
Guarantee is still the same. And Chris, just so you know too, we did, this was on my hot button, we did look and make sure that there will be no interference in the megahertz ranges that they work in with the safeties. We checked that out thoroughly, like 5 different times, I wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. So
Thank you.
We're good.
Quite an efficiency package.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal and a lot of improved infrastructure. Basically, all your water meters, all your electric meters, downtown lights, all your street lights. Yeah,
Well, I don't know how much profit you make, but it
Not
looks like
enough.
you're working for it. Looks like you're working for it to me.
that's what they tell
You
me.
know.
Right?
I would also add that a lot of these things, the downtown street lights, the LED street lights, are things that we have already we've already built into this year's budget. We had, I'd like to say about 150,000, I think, budgeted for this year to start LED street light transformation. We had budgeted roughly 25,000, I think, to begin the downtown decorative lights, knowing that we couldn't possibly do them all in 1 year, but we had set money aside. So those monies are setting there for those projects. It's kind of our intent to put some of that aside into a fund, because we know in roughly 15 years, 16 years, we're going to need to start systematically replacing these meters. They're guaranteed, the water side's guaranteed for 20 years, so we know at about year 15 or 16, we should start replacing about a fourth of the town to update those. So we're put some money aside now for a replacement fund, which we do every year anyway. We have a meter change-out program on both sides that we budget for on an annual basis. So we'll continue to budget for that, knowing that the replacement won't happen for another 15 years.
So that brings up a good point. Kendall in the city were adamant about keeping that at a much shorter term than the life, so they could start, after that, they could start budgeting for replacement. So there's a significant amount of dollars there to budget for replacements. This next piece here is just next steps. Where are we at? I think I want to emphasize just one thing here is we're trying to meet this April deadline, if you will. 2 reasons. One, interest rates continue to go up. And no matter how you count it, interest rates are inching up, and they're inching up pretty quick. The other thing, we've got guarantees on our pricing till the end of this month. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Hurry,
Okay.
hurry.
Okay, I know, right? So, well, you guys make the decision, and we're ready to go. We're ready to go.
Hey, Dave, just real quick, we
Yeah.
got kind of a long meeting. I thought it was gonna be a short meeting. It looks like it's gonna be a longer meeting. I think I had these questions for you before, but how many companies are there out there doing what you are doing, Johnson Controls? I mean, it's obvious that, every city ought to be doing it. I mean, how many companies are doing it?
There's only a handful, quite honestly, there's only a handful of companies that will do the water meter and electric meter side of this business. There's a lot of performance contracting companies like Johnson Controls, but there's only a handful of them that will, because this is a big bite-off, and you gotta have the experts to do this. we happened, many years ago, bought a company that did this, right? And then merged it in and then developed it from
I
there.
see.
So we're one of the few companies that actually
So
do
how
it.
many projects has Johnson Control got going on
Oh.
simultaneously?
Simultaneously?
Yeah, right now, from start to finish,
Yeah, yeah. You talk about water projects or as a whole?
as a whole, I guess.
As a whole, right now, we're running, what is it, Josh, about $6 billion worth of?
We'll do about half a billion dollars worth of energy projects this year. That's North America.
Yeah, but how many different cities, I guess is my question.
Over 100 nationwide.
Yeah, generally at any time, we got like 100 projects going on, so.
Okay, well, interesting.
Yeah, it is, and I'm learning myself, Jim, so.
Sure, sure.
Any other questions?
I don't think we have any more questions,
Okay.
Dave.
Well, Kendall knows where to find me.
Okay.
All right.
Are we voting on something here? Or?
Well, like, we are gonna need consensus to move forward if you think this is the direction you wanna go.
Is
So that
Stephanie here?
she is.
Stephanie, have you looked at, where's Stephanie? I'm looking.
She's in the
for her.
back.
Oh, there she is. Have you, you want to come forward for a minute, if you don't mind? Because obviously we need to make some decisions here. And, you know, have you looked, I guess you're the person to ask, you're the finance director. Have you looked over all the numbers on this thing, ROI, and where the money comes from, and
We're
so on
working-
and so forth?
We're working with the numbers, not only with internal staff, but we've been working with Springstead as well.
It looks pretty good.
From what we see, like we said, we like the guaranteed part of the project where the payments are based on the savings that we receive, so.
Okay.
The fact that we have no capital expenditures up front, there are no payments expected until the entirety of this project is completed, and like you said, we're probably a year down the road. And then we only pay what we receive. If we don't get the benefits that they guarantee, then we only pay what we actually receive. And that'll be checked by a third party. We're looking into third parties that'll verify those savings numbers.
So there's no payment bond, or, I mean, if there's a payment bond, it'd be on us, I guess. I mean, there's no, I'm trying to think this thing through my little head here. There's no,
That's gonna depend on which type of financing we go with. Basically, I mean, if we go with anything besides what JCI is offering, your payment would be required every year because you're issuing debt. You would have to make that payment every year. If there are savings, or if we didn't receive the savings that they anticipate that we are to receive, then we would have to wait for a reimbursement from JCI for, to be able to offset that debt payment that we have. JCI's offering that they have, if I understand it correctly, is it's taken off of what we pay them, so we're not waiting for that returning the check of those savings, so.
So it's more
that
real
correct?
time? It would be more real time then? I mean, in a sense, we wouldn't wait, no lag.
Right.
okay.
And with that third party, we don't have to worry about any dispute with the scenario he gave of 1,000 and 500. If
Yeah,
we
they're
say
going to have to prove the savings that they provide, and then we'll have a third party that verifies that they're, giving
And
us
that-
the correct.
And that's in our contract with them, or agreement, I should say.
Yes, we'll have, excuse me, we'll have all of that written into it.
Yep.
And that's what, Springstead is not only reviewing the financing options, they're reviewing that contract
Oh,
as
really?
so.
That's good, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Okay, good, well, so now we just, I guess I'm in. I say I guess I am in.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to pursue it the next step and see where we're at with the financing portion of it. And, I mean, from all indications, it sounds like a win-win. Yep. situation for us. So, I mean, I don't necessarily want to go out and spend $6 million on a process and then have to wait for refunds every year until we get it paid off. So I think going through Johnson Control and seeing what they can do as far as the financing goes would be the direction I would prefer that we go. I'm not speaking for the other 4 commissioners, but there's no upfront cost at that point then. So,
And we'll lay out all the options for you. But I do understand what you're saying as far as JCI's approach. I guess the bottom line is it's all still guaranteed. We only pay, we only pay what we receive.
right.
But I understand about the
They pay
lag.
on the front end or the back end.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So we'll proceed. Like I said, we've already seen the contract. I know Paul has started looking at it, has been looking at it for a little while. Springstead is reviewing it, and those two will talk and review some things. But will get us moving forward on that timeline.
is the other 3
No, I
commissioners
think this
okay
is a good
with
thing.
it?
I am
Yeah.
going to the next step and seeing. I am.
What's this magical day of April 1st?
Well, that's strictly about as Dave alluded to, they did go out for bids for pricing for the meters, the infrastructure, all that. The bids are good through the end of the month, but then the other part is interest rates continue to climb upwards, and we would expect maybe at the beginning of April for them to tick up a little higher yet. It depends a little bit on what the Fed is doing, but a lot of it has to do with guaranteed pricing for the bids that we receive on the equipment. If we don't make by April 1st, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. It's going to fluctuate just a little bit.
The interest rates, locking in our vendors, that's important as a big piece, right? But the interest rates are probably the biggest thing. We working on another project up in Nebraska, in the last 2 days of last week, they jumped up to the tune of a lot of money over a term, because you're looking over a 15-year, 16-year term, right? So it can add up to a lot of dollars,
Yeah,
even 1 or 2 basis points.
Right.
That's what you have to look at.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get this thing going about a year ago.
Right.
But anyway,
Okay.
we're working on it.
Yep.
For a
Thank
little
you.
town, we're lucky to go as far as for town, as far as we've gotten. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Thanks.
You guys don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to.
You can go. Or you can kick us out, one or the other.
Now, you're more than welcome to stay.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Next item under the public hearing, special presentation proclamations, Park Advisory Board report. Alec Hendricks will make a presentation.
The mayor.
The mayor.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner, and staff. I'm here representing the Parks Advisory Board to give our report, basically for the year 2017, and I know it's March, but we've done a lot of planning, a lot of meetings. We've had a meeting in January and February kind of to finalize this report and talk to you about what our needs are. Did everyone read the report?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't want to repeat a lot of things if you've already read it, so.
Read part of it. I didn't read it all.
Okay, I'm just gonna go over the highlights. I'm just gonna start with each park and then at the end summarize. So Feaster Park is kind of our main park in the town where the playground equipment is. We've reviewed that, looked at it, and basically the large playground set there will need some attention in 5 to 10 years. It's starting to wear through the plastic protectant on the platforms and the slides are starting to show deterioration in the plastic. And as we learned from Jim, our Public Works Director, as you go further along in years with this equipment, sometimes the maintenance and spare parts is hard to find. The companies have moved on to new, better things. And a large playground set like that can easily run $70,000. And we really don't have a budget for that. We really don't have a plan each year to fund some kind of balance to take care of that. It really just comes out of the Public Works budget as needed. And as you know, there's lots of other needs in the city coming out of that budget. Recently, I don't have a picture in the report, but the Public Works Department poured a concrete pad and a sidewalk and put in the frame for a handicap swing set.
Yep.
So go up there and take a look at it. It's really nice.
Look very good.
They've also done some work to fix the sidewalk area around the big playground equipment. So stuff we can do, you know, they're doing in-house and doing a pretty good job of that. We've also scoped out a plan for the toddler playground set. It has chips in it that get washed away nearly every hard rain because it's on a slope. So there's been talk about what to do about that, to put some kind of terrace and level that area and maybe drain it to keep the chips from washing out every time. Many other smaller projects to do at Feaster Park would include some of the other smaller equipment that's been out there, you know, 15 years, that's eventually going to need to be replaced for the smaller children. Other small things we'd like to do at Feaster Park would be improve the lighting under the picnic shelters. If you've ever been out there on Saturdays and Sundays in the spring and summer, there's lots of birthday parties out there. So they're heavily used. Barbecue pits are heavily used. We want to keep those up to date because if there was a big family's birthday party, you can guarantee there's going to be visitors from out of town coming. And since that's our main premier park, we want to, you know, put on a good face for that. One thing we want to install new barbecue grills. The ones that are kind of used, a couple are rusted out, completely rusted out, and Kendall had talked about having our guys in-house weld up some new barbecue pits with raw materials. So that's an idea there. Walter Johnson Park, just hit the highlights there. It's as we got information from Jim, the big playground there was installed sometime in the early 90s, and a second slide was added in 2010. That's about all that's been done in almost close to 30 years in that park, and there will be a time coming that we need to do more there. Things we did at the park cleanup days was improve the horseshoe pits and redid the seating there, so it's ready for horseshoe tournaments if anybody would ever want to do that. It's cleaned up from what it was 5 years ago. As you know, there's a Frisbee golf course there that was put in by the college. Another thing is there used to be kind of a shelter there. If anybody remembers, it was screened in, the flood took it, it was torn down, hasn't been replaced. And we thought there might be a need for an enclosed area. It would just be like a shelter, like at Feaster, but possibly be enclosed in. Maybe not, depending on how we want to do it, but an enclosed in from bug protection might be helpful, beneficial, and to people during rodeo time, go take a break, get away from the bugs, and just have be able to have a summer picnic in there at the park and not get the bugs in the food. Idea there. LeClaire Park, we've kicked around some ideas there. There's plenty we could do there, but of course it all takes money. One thing we are going to do is put in a handicap swing set there that's just like the one at Feaster that just went in. North Park. This.
Alex, excuse me. You know, we've been here listening to this, talking about it and everything. I said this before, I think we need to get a little, I guess you call it a work session, get on a bus with you, with your committee, and go run around and look at all this stuff. I mean, I appreciate what you did tonight. Yeah, let's talk about it a little bit, but I really feel like we just time to put some boots on the ground and go look at each park with you and your team. And that way we can, really get a feel for it.
Okay, we could discuss doing that
I mean, you can go ahead and spend
in
as much
April or
time as
May.
you want tonight, but I'd really rather go, I think I mentioned this before a couple times. I'd really like, at some point in time, we need to go look at it. Well, I think the time's now.
Okay, we could plan something like
Well,
that.
yeah.
I'm here to just tell you kind of the results of our discussions in the last year and us going and looking at the parks and talking about what to do.
I agree
as
with
an
what you're
advisory
saying,
board.
Jim. I do. But I do believe the last time Alex approached us, we asked him for, a 5-year plan. What do you want to see fixed? And maybe, that's what he's got right here.
And I agree.
And this is what he's given, and
Right,
that's what
I
he,
agreed with that, and I said
So-
all the time he needs, but
right.
it's obvious it's time to do that as we're thinking about it. Go ahead, Alex.
So-
Okay. Next plans for another major park we think needs some attention that hasn't had attention in a very long time is North Park on First Street. There's a large population of children in that neighborhood area. Big things are picnic shelter, chair swings, a basketball court addition. Parking for cars was a major thing there. There's really nowhere to park at North Park. And behind the park is kind of scary to park, A new sign out front, the one that was taken down because it was old, put in the same frame that's already there. Yes, this would be a significant investment in North Park, we understand that. But it would serve kids that could easily ride their bike there and enjoy there, whereas it's a little bit more difficult for a small child to ride their bicycle to Feaster Park from almost anywhere in town. Their parents basically have to drive them there. Harmon Park, that's really, Kendall will be discussing with you about that. Some kind of plan. It's kind of on hold, but there needs to be something done with it probably in the next 10 years. Really, the next big one really needs to be a totally separate project outside of the parks budget or plan or the other parks, and that is the tennis courts.
Good.
And we really consider that a special project. Basically, Kendall's done some quotes with some companies that specialize in tennis courts. They're basically saying $400,000 to replace all 6 courts there. We could knock that down by, really they need torn out and the base completely redone. And we thought City Crews could do some of that base work. And then the company would come in and do the concrete and finish work. And that maybe could reduce some of those costs. Right now, there's not much play on the tennis courts, as you know, because they're really in unplayable shape. And that's why. Everybody knows that when the tennis courts were in good shape, they were
of
about
people
full
there.
every night.
Yep.
So it's up to the commission and we might be able to partner with some other organizations
Yeah,
in the community as well. But
Would have been nice to maybe work together with the Coffee Country Club when they redid their tennis courts last year. They just
I don't know what extent they
well,
had
I
to
don't
repair
know what
theirs.
they did either, but it better than the ones we have on
Yeah.
Stark. So
We just mentioned one thing on here, Roosevelt Drive. As you know, it's heavily used just by walkers, and if there's any small improvements we could do there, maybe with some rest benches or anything, a water fountain somewhere, possibly. So to summarize, currently, as I've said before, there's no official budget for the park's capital improvements. And there is approximately $5,000 available indirectly through the Special Parks and Recreation Fund, but that barely covers any real maintenance every year. As you can see from your spreadsheet that you got, you saw that it's basically going to average $50,000 a year. Doesn't mean you're going to spend $50,000 a year. It'll be up and down. As if you do a large project, it may be $70,000 or $80,000, and the next year it may be $20,000 or $30,000 to do some other things. But it seems like the average is going to be $50,000 a year, and that's outside of the tennis courts, not including the tennis courts. So this advisory board was started in August 2015. So this August will be 3 years. And we've asked for a capital budget specifically for parks improvement, and nothing's happened yet. So right now, you're basically forcing Jim and the Public Works Department to budget this stuff out of their fund in the midst of fixing everything else in the infrastructure-wise in the city.
We're spending it, just not formally spending it
Yeah,
in this, in a sense, I guess.
and it just depends up to you guys during budget times as to where you think the best needs are for the city. But this is what the Parks Advisory Board's task has been given, so this is what we've reported, and that's what it's gonna take to improve the parks, and it's up to you guys to decide how important the parks are to the city and attracting new citizens and keeping people here who already live here.
Yep.
Well said, Alec.
And I agree. I mean, I don't think we've done our diligence on the focus here, because a lot of it has been just upkeep at best in a lot of cases. So, I mean, as I look across here, we're budgeting, and I don't know if we have the money for 2018 to spend, but,
Be lucky to do it going forward, but.
right,
A lot of those things that you're seeing there are in the process of being completed. The only one that, as it stands right now, is the 10,000 for a toddler playground at Feaster.
mm-hmm,
That's the only thing that isn't already in the works of being completed for this year. And that was, when we say the toddler playground, we're talking the area that's enclosed, kind of right in the middle of the two playgrounds. You have the swings on the south side, a larger playground on the north east corner of that lot, and then right up front there's some smaller equipment, and that's what we're considering the toddler playground. We are doing some work right now to divert water and replace some of the barricades around it, because the chips do wash away in heavy rains as it flows down from south to north.
right.
But the board has talked about some ideas on some pieces of equipment that maybe could be replaced, but we haven't investigated further as to specifics of what those would be. Some of those are probably still usable and in decent condition. But as Alec alluded to, the stuff's expensive.
Right.
And so that, the $10,000 is a ballpark. And there'd be some monies in special parks and recs that we could look to utilize to do something with that.
Yep.
But you would start to see some noticeable upgrades. And I guess I should point out the trout at LeClaire, that's, we used to stock LeClaire
Right.
twice a year. So that was about $5,000. So the $2,500 that represents there is an idea to do it one time a year. And there's some disagreement on the board as to the need for that, and whether or not that's money well spent.
Right.
But we do believe that there are several people who utilized it, but again, that $5,000 was definitely a lot to spend on fish, where the rest of it's stocked for free through the wildlife and parks, but trout specifically is costly. So that's, I guess that's still a debate, but could still happen. The rest of it would be somewhat easy to finish this year.
Well, and, to what Jim talked about, I'm absolutely not opposed to a work session to where we go drive around and kind of get your, this is what you envision, this is what the group envisions this will look like if we did this. And, a couple hours on a Saturday, we could probably knock it out pretty easy, hit most of these. 5 parks is what you have on here for the most part. And
Yeah, Major.
most of us are, I'm at LeClaire and Feaster Park quite a bit, so I know what those look like.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
North-
can go drive by them yourself and kind of do a pre-look and get your own
Exactly.
ideas before.
So you already know and then just get your overall feeling of where you want to take it. I mean, I
So-
think you give us a good list. I think that gives us a, you know, it was what I had asked for, is give us some dollar figures on what we need to budget, you know, because again, I didn't know whether we need to budget 10,000 or 100,000. And I think this starts getting us in the ballpark of some of the things you want to work on. So
So as
now
you
it's-
go through your talks amongst yourselves and budget sessions, remember that as new people move to Coffeyville and take jobs here, they have a choice to live here or not. And one of the things they look at as a family is the parks.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
any other question?
I have none.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
I have a question.
One
Not of-
question.
Not of Alex.
Okay.
Well, maybe it is of Alex. Come here, Alex. I got a question for you. And I'm sure you can find this out, but I have a tremendous question. Excluding the zoo, what is Independence budget each year for their parks? That's a question I want answered.
I don't know excluding the zoo, but they have an organization called Friends of Parks and Zoo, and their budget is 500,000 a year.
500,000 a year?
Yeah, and this was information that Gail and Martha had put together, and this would have been 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and said they had just completed a $250,000 fountain renovation project with funds raised through the Friends of Parks and Zoo community organization with donations from groups and individuals over 4 or 5 years.
Could you
And
find out how much the city budgets for their parks? Or someone?
minus the zoo.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna, unless you wanna put a zoo in.
It's all that's all very interesting,
It is.
you know?
And I haven't driven around Independence completely to see all their parks. They have a few small parks like we do, but basically they have one main park, and as you know, it's very large.
Yep.
But it's also the site of their stadium and their 4-H buildings where they do livestock shows, and it's kind of like our Walter Johnson Park and then some, you know, and whereas we have Walter Johnson Park and Feaster Park, where everything's separate, you know, and they have their aquatics park there, their tennis courts there, everything's in one kind of localized area, and we're more spread out with our facilities.
But I don't think that, anyway, that's a debate for another day, but I'd just like to know that number.
I'll find that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Moving on to new business, resolution number R-18-14, a resolution to approve employee health insurance. Brian Hillier will make the presentation.
So, quick introduction. My name is Brian Hillier with a company called Benefit Health Advisor. We're an independent broker consulting firm. About 2.5, 3 years ago, the city went out and held RFP looking at the different brokers and what they'd be able to bring to the table in regards to consulting and obtaining the bids and helping with customer service and healthcare reform. And our agency was selected. And so that's a little bit of an introduction on myself. Today we're here to talk about the plan changes and the insurance committee's recommendation for April 1st effective date. So it is quickly approaching. Let me back up and give you a little bit of insight that I think would be beneficial for the commissioners to better understand where we're at today. We went out to the market and obtained the different bids: Blue Cross, United, Cigna, Aetna. We looked at the fully insured, the self-funded, and the insurance committee reviewed those different bids. The increase on your current program, there was an increase, but to give you an idea of the risk from the insurer's point of view, and I use this example because it was your previous carrier, not that it was the highest or the lowest, but Blue Cross Blue Shield came in 22% above your renewal. So when we look at it and say, where's the risk of the city from a health insurance perspective, that's not 22% above current. That was 22% already a difficult renewal. And so the insurance committee had the tough task of really reviewing those options and trying to be creative in how could we make a recommendation to the commissioners that would not hit one specific member or affect the payroll deductions. And so the recommendation was to renew with the current company because they came in with the best proposal. But with that being an increase, it was still, what are we going to do from a budget or a plan design standpoint? Couple numbers for you. So you are currently partially self-funded, so you do have access to the claims, not individual members, but you do have access to the claims. And we ran a couple things, and this was reviewed by the insurance committee, but just a couple numbers for you. The 15-16 year, the medical and RX claims were 1.3 million. The 16-17 year, they jumped to 1.7 million, which when we look at, when an insurer, so Blue Cross or United, when they look at your claims experience, they use a 3-year average. They may put a little bit of weight more on the most recent year, which that's the difficult task that we had last year, but we had the 1.3 and then the 1.7, and this year we're on track again to 1.7 million. So going into the renewal, we now have 2 years at 1.7 million and only 1 year under the 1.5 million at 1.3, which is calling for the increase. Specifically in regards to prescriptions, the spend went from 363,000 in 15-16, so it's 363,000. Last year was 389, and this year we're on track for 546. So the prescriptions went from 360, 389 to 546. And so all this information was reviewed by the insurance committee of the claim costs, and in our recommendation to the commissioners, or the council, I guess, I present to a lot of counties as well. Our recommendation is using this data of where have we seen the increases, where are members out of pockets, and we really tried to do a variety of changes so that it wasn't impacting one specific group. The other thing that I just would make note is that your claims over 50,000, so this is the dollar amount on specific members over 50,000. Last year was 127,000, and this year, on an immature year, because we still have another month plus run out, it's 256,000. So we went from 127 to 256. So this kind of paints the picture of why was Blue Cross, using them as your previous carrier, why were they 22% above the renewal? We've seen some significant increases. With that said, I am optimistic about the future. We have worked out a couple of things that will affect next year's cost, and it was really strategic. The plan changes that we're making is really to get control of the program that has seen a spike in claims, a spike in costs, to really get it control of the program, and so that we don't see these types of big jumps in the future based off of the risk that we have. Any comments from the insurance committee based off of the utilization? If not, I'll dive into the recommendations. No? Okay.
I have a question real quick. Where are you from?
I'm from Colorado.
Okay, so
That's where our headquarters is
that's
at.
where, so you flew here from Colorado to make this presentation?
That's correct. We came in town, but also to do the employee meetings.
Okay.
So we did meet with the employees, personally presented the benefit changes, and so forth. Being open, we do a lot of work in Kansas. So one of the concepts that we'll present today, we're actually working with Centura Health, which is a very large hospital chain. We're doing work in 3 cities that they just picked up they're managing. So my territory is Kansas, but we are out of Colorado headquarters.
Okay.
What do you mean being open? You mean just being informational?
Yeah, informational.
Okay, I got you.
This isn't our one-off case. We do Cherokee County down the street. But yeah, we work with lots of cities, counties, employers. Kansas is my territory. Informational is a good way to put it.
Thank you, Brian.
So in regards to the changes, I wanted to also give you some information which you're probably familiar with, but how the program works. Really what we do when we go into an area, which is one of the main reasons why the insurance committee was intrigued with what we brought to the table when they were doing the broker selection, we really believe in working with the local providers. A lot of times between the insurance company and the providers, there's kind of this tension of discounts and care travels, and we are very strong believers in keeping the care that can be done local, to have that care done local. We believe that the hospital has to be on board. It's not just something that the city does, it's a mutual agreement. You recently saw, and I know that the insurance committee provided some information as well, like Independence, what happens when the hospital can't sustain itself. And that's really what we do in some of those other cities that I mentioned, is working with the hospital. And the way that your program's set up is we actually get deeper discounts from Coffeyville Regional Medical Center in order to have a slightly better benefit for the employees. The claims run through the PPO network, and then we get an additional discount, which is approximately 9 to 11%. So we get the PPO discount plus an additional discount, and then what we do is we give that back to the employees in form of a better benefit, which is why the hospital will give that deeper discount, is they're hoping for higher utilization. But it helps keep the providers and the utilization local so that they can provide the services that are needed. And so when a claim comes in automatically, it's based off of the zip code rendered. You do have a lot of traveling doctors, so if a doctor performs the service here, it's paid at that better benefit. So again, we're encouraging doctors to come here, and also then members will have their other procedures done here as well. The only bill doesn't come from the doctor, but there is a better benefit to do that, and when it's offset by a deeper discount, we get the PPO discount plus that percentage. So in regards to the changes, the recommendation, a couple of things. Right now, there's no recommendation to change Tier 1, which is services rendered in the zip code of Coffeyville. So there's no recommend changes on the medical side if a member uses this local area. In order to mitigate the cost of payroll deduction and try to help with that increase, the recommendation from the insurance committee is that in-network, so services that leave the city of Coffeyville but are still in network, that goes to a $500 deductible. And then out of network, which we call them the BUCA carriers, it's Blue Cross, United, Cigna, and Aetna. You access the Aetna network. So it's a very robust network. We do track the utilization as an insurance committee quarterly. But if a member does go out of network, there's a slightly higher deductible, which is 2 times.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yes.
Let's go back to Tier 1. 'Cause
Correct.
What you said there and what we have in the agenda packet doesn't add up. So right now the plan pays 60%. The proposed change is that to change to plan pays 50%.
Sorry, let me correct my statement. There's no change to the deductible or the co-insurance dollar amounts that a member would pay.
Okay.
So we'll get to the co-insurance. That's how quickly they hit, but their amount that could come out of their pocket doesn't change. It's a 0 deductible and then $2,500 co-insurance. The co-insurance out of pocket. The co-insurance that you're talking about is how quickly they hit it, which there will be some changes there. But the total amount of deductible and co-insurance, there's no change in Tier 1.
Okay, thank you.
So the way that it's stated is no change to Tier 1 deductible, increase Tier 2 to 500 and Tier 3 to 1,000 for single families 2 times. One of the other changes is in regards to healthcare reform. Healthcare reform puts a maximum out of pocket, which is different than your deductible and your co-insurance out of pocket. Healthcare reform requires a maximum out of pocket so that there's a point when everything turns off, whether that be ER copay or office visit copay or prescription copay. And so the maximum for 2018 that's allowed, which is again, healthcare reform tells us what that maximum is $73.50. And so we're just keeping in line with what the mandate is of healthcare reform. It does appear as a change because it's up, which in looking at that, it says no change to the co-insurance, but the co-insurance and copay max raised $73.50. Again, that's a healthcare reform. It's just a bar that's going to increase each year. That basically caps copays of how much the member could pay. It does not affect the deductible or the co-insurance, so it really includes copays. So back to your question about the co-insurance, the next recommendation is that we put the co-insurance at 50% in network. That would affect Tier 1 and Tier 2, and then we take the co-insurance out of network. I don't put a lot of emphasis on out of network because emergencies are paid in network, so someone would have to choose to go out of network and schedule the appointment. It wouldn't be an emergency. So really, Tier 1 and Tier 2 is what I focus on, and that is changing it from 60% to 50%. Let me talk about that for just a minute. The Aetna originally required, when we went with them, they originally required that in-network be at 60%. They have since dropped that provision. You were, when you were with Blue Cross, at 50% coinsurance. Aetna would not allow that in their contracts, and that provision was removed. And so we're really going back to the benefit that we had with Blue Cross Blue Shield at 50% coinsurance. They removed that provision for moving forward for 2018. The other recommendation is that the office visit change from $20 to $25. So any copay where members would go pay $20, it's now $25 or will be $25. And then the other area that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on is in regards to the prescription drugs. I gave you the numbers earlier and rounding, but we've seen our prescription spend go from $363 to $389 to building in the lag $546. And we feel that we need to, and when I say we, the insurance committee feels that we need to look at the utilization and what type of drugs are being utilized and the spend versus the benefits. And so the recommendation is that we do not change Tier 1 and Tier 2, which are, the copays are $20 and $40 currently. There'd be no change to generics and brands formulary, but that we would change the non-formulary to $85 and specialty drugs to $450. The biggest thing that we have with the prescriptions is that you have flat copays, and as inflation happens, the amount that the member pays is held flat. And so that's different with the deductibles or coinsurance. As inflation happens, if a procedure costs $1,000 and it goes to $1,100, the member's picking up, this year they'd pick up 40%, next year they'd pick up 50%, so they're seeing that increase. On the prescriptions, because it's a flat dollar amount, they're not seeing that increase as drugs become more and more expensive, and so that's where the copay would change. What I would say is that this is very standard on Tier 4, is to have a copay like this. We also see it typically as a percentage. And what we wanted to do was be able to tell the members it's X amount. But one of the things that we're seeing in the industry by a lot of the insurance companies is to charge about 25%. And Tier 4 drugs, if that's $5,000, that's $1,250 out of their pocket. We wanted to still keep a copay, but also knowing that we're seeing the utilization and the cost, and the copays had not gone up in the past. I guess slightly in the past, but not with as much as the cost is going up.
Can you tell me briefly, just kind of a upper view,
Yep,
what falls into the specialty?
yep.
From 75 to 450, that's a pretty big jump.
Correct.
So
It's,
what are we looking at there?
Yeah, it's any drug, and this is a ballpark, but it's any drug that's over $2,000 a month. So,
Okay.
but I would
Cancer
say
drugs,
generally
stuff like that?
speaking, they're closer to 5 or 6.
Okay.
From your plan, again, we don't get into names and different things on your program. Probably affects about 4% of the drugs.
Okay.
So very small amount. 80% of the drugs fall into Tier 1.
Mhm.
And so it's a very small amount, but they are very costly. And I do want to note one other thing that I think is important on the Blue Cross Blue Shield proposal, just so that we compare apples to apples. That 22% above the renewal was on a $1,500 deductible. So we're making a change from 0 to 500. They came in at 1,500, and they were also making their programs now have these changes to reduce the costs on prescriptions as well, which is where we kind of came up with these benefits is, well, what about if we did more of these benefits that they proposed? What would it do to the cost? So there's one other change. Healthcare reform requires that adult-dependent children are covered to age 26. Some of you may disagree that they become adults before the age of 26, but that's the federal mandate. And the insurance committee is making the recommendation that the plan only cover dependents to age 26, which is the ACA mandate. There was language in the document that would allow members to stay on past the age of 26 if certain criteria was met, and the recommendation is to remove that. I don't know if I'll be talking about a commission policy or if that will be yourself in regards to retirees, but I think that it's important to note a couple things. The first thing is that some of the provisions that were in the plan document in previous years, this was pre-healthcare reform, they were in place because members could get denied insurance, and under healthcare reform, members can't get denied. So when you look at it and you look at somebody who's put in 30 years at the city, they want to retire when they're 62, or maybe it be somebody who's disabled or adult-dependent child in this case, there were no options for them because insurance companies would deny them. In fact, if you got onto one of the policies, they would renew you, and then when you had a big claim, they would give you a non-renew. And so there were provisions that employer groups had in their programs that would assist those members because they really had no options. And under the Affordable Care Act, anyone under the age of 65, because at age 65 you hit Medicare, anyone is guaranteed issue a policy, and so that anybody would be able to sign up on the exchange or through a program, let alone if they qualify for Medicare or Medicaid or one of those other programs. So again, one of the things that we're going to ask is for the commission policy in regards to retirees be reviewed. But again, it's the concept. Times have changed. There used to be no option. If somebody wanted to retire when they were 64, no insurance company would take them. And now the insurance companies, under the current law, they are mandated to take them at a given rate. There's no pre-X. They can't be denied. And so with those times changing, the group plans are changing as well. The last item, even after these changes, there's still a call for a payroll deduction change. And the recommendation is that the payroll change $40 per month on a single and $80 per month on a family. So again, we worked very, very hard with the insurance committee. I will say, probably some of the rowdiest meetings I've been in because it was difficult. There were a lot of opinions and different ideas and how do we handle it and what do we do? Lots of meetings, lots of conference calls. They even did some work sessions or some information sessions last week with the employees and then did the employee meetings this morning. It's difficult. There's no doubt about it. But based off of the budget of where it's set and where the risk is at, there's a difference. And so we tried to look at the plan and again, look at different areas of the plan. And so that's our recommendation is those changes as well as the payroll changes. And again, it's difficult. The insurance committee doesn't make any additional money or anything for their efforts. And they had to work hard this year for that no additional compensation. And it's not easy to stand here and say, well, this is what needs to happen, but it is. We got to get the program back on track. We got to control the costs. This is something that we want for many, many years for future employees, for long-term employees. But we need to take a step back and say, well, how are we managing the program? We can do the bids. We can work with the local hospital, get the deeper discounts. But we also need to look at where the utilization's coming from. How do we manage that? What's going on in the industry? What are other people doing? And we took all that into consideration with the insurance committee. A lot of them attended today, so I'll let them speak up if they have anything else.
Yeah, Don, any of you guys want to talk real quick? I mean, I don't want to be here all night, but if you got anything to say that we need to know as a group? I mean, the man did a good job. Brian did a good job.
Presenting, yep.
We had a shortfall we had to make up for, and we made it up by reducing some of our coverage and what we had left over, we had to make up with premium increases.
Obviously, everybody knows that, all the employees know that the cost, the claims have went up.
They have this year.
That's correct. Today in the meetings, the three stats that we gave you of the 1.3 to 1.7 and the prescriptions.
Right, that's 25%.
We made that very clear to the employees in the meeting that this is what's driving it. And there were insurance committee members in each of those meetings, but we really didn't receive even pushback within the meetings. I mean, our claims are up, and we got to cover our claims. And to be honest, again, I'm pretty open. The insurance committee knows this. The fact that we were able to make these minor changes compared to saying, let's just go with the $5,000 deductible and costs are up, the fact that we were able to make minor changes and be very creative and minor payroll changes, I feel it as a blessing that we were able to renew at the increase that we did when claims are up 25% and prescriptions are up almost 30%.
What percentage of this, the increase in cost we put towards the fact that we have to insure the older people you were talking about a minute ago? How does that affect, how much does that affect all this?
Are you asking specifically about dependents over 26 or about retirees?
Retirees. Well, I didn't think about the ones over 26. I mean, I was talking about the retirees.
So I would have to look at it as retirees, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, but our bodies are like cars.
I understand.
And so as soon as you hit 50,000 miles, there's some little things that have to be done. When you hit 100,000 miles, there's some parts that have to be replaced. When you hit 150,000 miles, you might need a few more parts and pieces and repairs. And when you hit 200,000 miles, and so the retirees is really covering, in my example, the 200,000 mile cars. And so it is a cost driver. It is a risk to the city and to the policy. I did not come prepared in regards to give you an amount specifically on the
Well,
retirees.
this should be, I'm not talking about our employees.
You're
I'm
just
not
in
talking
general.
about coffee, I'm talking about as a whole, industry across the United States.
Yeah, right now, so it was really popular pre-healthcare reform to cover retirees. It was maybe close to, and again, I'll have to get you some numbers, but I'd say about 25%, and it was even higher with municipalities. And now retirees is less than 10%. Because again, there's a gap that fills that. There's exchanges, there's guaranteed issues, and so the employers are not taking on the risk, whereas before it was you were bridging the gap between retiring and Medicare, and there's no longer that bridge. Insurance companies can't deny members. They can't apply pre-X and can't deny, and so the number of employers that are offering it has dropped significantly.
I got some questions.
Okay.
So the retirees would be able to, if we do away with keeping the retirees on the plan, they would keep their current insurance until December 31st of 18.
Yeah, so there's two separate items on the docket today. One is in regards to the medical plan and payroll deductions. That is a I don't want to get the term wrong, but that's a separate item. The retirees is actually a commission policy that was put in place.
Okay, then but what I'm saying is that someone answered this question, whether it be you or
Yes,
someone.
I
out
just
there.
want to separate, there's two
Right,
separate
I
decisions.
understand that part, but the question is that if we choose to do away with the resolution from the 1980s, the retirees that are currently on the policy would maintain their health insurance until December 31st of 18.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
The people who are on the current insurance policy that are dependent children, or dependent children of the folks that are retired, I guess, what would happen to them? Would they continue with their coverage until December 31st?
The way that the way that the renewal was quoted was to have all the benefit changes take place April 1st. So the deductible, the co-insurance, the office visits, the dependent children, the RX copays, those were all quoted to change April 1st. The retirees was not quoted to make a change, which would allow you the leeway of deciding, do we make it April 1st? The recommendation from the insurance committee is that you give them through the end of the year, but that's why I say they're separate. The retiree decision does not affect the renewal for April 1, 2018. It was quoted status quo. So whatever you do. The other one was quoted as the changes taking place April 1st. And so if we don't make the changes that the insurance committee is recommending, then there will be a rate change for April 1st. And if you want to talk about specifics, I did break out the specifics.
I don't know the numbers. You probably do. I don't. But the thing is, how many folks do we have on our policy that have dependent children right now that would be kicked off of this policy with like a 2-week notice?
So Maryland will be able
Two.
Well, first answer is 2. The other thing is that when
And are those dependent children that are like handicapped, or
correct, in order to.
so you want me to kick off some folks' kids with a 2 weeks notice?
So again, it's again.
But see, I want you guys to keep that in mind before you go whacking down the hammer, that's what you're voting on. So we need to take that in consideration, because they
Well, I don't know who they are.
well, I don't either, but the thing
Maybe,
is.
maybe we don't want to know who they are,
But-
you know?
I don't think we need to know who they are.
Yeah.
So a couple of things.
The thing is what it boils down to though, is when you make this decision, you have to understand that you're knocking off two kids that are dependent kids
Right.
that have some type of, and
Right.
I don't know what the issues are, I don't wanna know, but the
Right.
thing is that's what you need to know.
That's why I'm
But-
conservative.
That's what you need to
That's why
know.
I'm a conservative, and I appreciate it.
So, I think
However-
that that's what we need to know.
The criteria that is needed to remain on insurance after 26, and Brian can speak to this better, is very similar to criteria needed to transition to other types of coverage. And maybe you could speak a little bit better to
With
that.
time to go out and shop for insurance instead of just a 2-week notice.
Well, these would be more state programs.
Correct. So again, we can't get into the criteria.
And how long does that take you to get stuff filed? I mean, sometimes that takes months.
Honestly, I couldn't answer that.
And sometimes they either deny you or whatever, I don't know, I don't wanna go into that, but I just wanna make sure that we're not knocking folks off of insurance that need insurance with a 2-week notice. And the thing is that this is the problem that I have preached for the last 6 years that I've set up here, is that these insurance things come up and they bring it to you at the last minute, and you have to have a decision tonight, and it either renews or doesn't renew a week and a half later. And I know you have to take, but you're talking about an incomplete year right now. Why are we not talking about this 4 months earlier than this?
So I agree
that
when
we're not prepared for this.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So that you know, and again, from my perspective and the insurance committee, when you say you, this is not an insurance company doing this.
No.
This is the insurance committee that's reviewed where the plan document does not align with what's considered standard and changes. The other thing that I will say is that the members that are affected were already notified that this was the intent. And so it's not something when you make the decision, they have 2 weeks. I'd
When
have
were
to,
they notified? And no one has ever told us that they were notified. When were they notified? So 3 weeks, they get 3 weeks notice that they're getting ready to get booted.
Brian, when did the renewals first come out and go to the committee?
so we start working on it early January, and then we present to the committee at about the 60-day mark, about 60 to 75 days. The biggest challenge that we ran into was with the increase. Then we went to the drawing board, and if it was a 5% increase, you would have heard about this months. You know, they would have said, let's just leave it as is. But we had to get very creative in the changes that we made, so that you know. And again, I hear exactly where you're coming from, and I'm Switzerland in this. I'm just here presenting.
You're just a messenger, and it's nothing.
Yeah,
But I
so
just don't.
If the insurance committee wanted to give if the commissioners make the decision to move forward, but they want to give a period of time, I would have to get approval. So maybe we make the decision contingent on approval. If we wanted to extend it through December, then there would be a change in the rates. If we went to them and said, look, we're asking for an additional month, can we make the change happen instead of April 1st, May 1st? They may be able to hold the rates. I did calculate, just so for your benefit, if we do delay that one provision till next renewal, then the payroll, instead of being $40 for a single, will be $65.50, and the family, instead of $80, will be $131 if we remove that provision for the 12 months.
Okay.
What if we remove it until December 31st?
It would be relatively the same. I mean, you're basically taking off 3 months of you still have 9 months of the risk.
Okay.
If you did it to his question, if you did it for a month or two and said, look, we're doing you a better benefit, adding a month or two or delaying it a month or two, we may be able to get them to hold the rate, saying the provision will take effect May 1 to give 30 days plus 2 weeks.
So when did we come to the conclusion, or when did the idea come to the forethought that we may have to remove these people from the policy? When did that first come to light?
So
2 weeks ago?
I can't remember if it was part of the original. We put together several options. We put together, here's a deductible change, here's a higher deductible change. We put together different options. I believe that some of the things like retirees and dependent children came up at a later date. So I would say it was probably 2 to 3 weeks ago where they said, what we were trying to do was we were trying to crunch the numbers from a budget perspective. As you know, in previous years, we've had a reserve with the second year in a row at 1.7 million. When we crunched the numbers from a payroll perspective and we didn't have the 300,000 reserve, that's when the insurance committee said we need to look at additional changes to protect the pocketbooks of the employees.
Okay, you just said you could go back and ask whoever you're gonna ask permission. Who do you get permission from?
So the way that your program's set up is you have a reinsurer carrier, and I would go and ask them, which is Gerber.
Okay. So what's your perspective on going back and asking them permission to extend it for a month so these people can have time to get those people on insurance?
I think
What's the likelihood of that?
I think it would be high to get it approved for 1 month.
What do you mean you think it'd be high? You think they would do it?
Correct.
Let's give them a month. It's the best we can do. But I don't agree that this is, I've said it and it just goes up in the air after I say it. This is stuff that has got to be brought to the commission in February, January, things like that, and not at the last daggum minute. Because, and the thing is, we've got to start talking about this way before. Because when you dump this just like this, the Johnson controls, basically, it's just, we've got to be talking about this stuff before. We can't just have it dumped in our lap and expect to make a decision on these type of things. And this affects a lot of people.
But the commission has been working on it for the past 3 months. I mean,
Not this commission.
Not this commission.
Correct.
The one that have to approve it.
But are you saying you want to sit through those meetings and whittle down insurance?
No, but what I'm telling you is that in February, we should have been notified that, hey, we might have to cut these people out of the insurance policy.
And in February, we didn't. That wasn't a thought.
Okay, but 2 weeks ago it was a thought, right?
Yeah, and I believe I notified you in my email.
Was it? Okay. Then let me look back, because I think it said something about retirees.
Yeah, it did say retirees. So
I don't think it said anything about dependent children.
well, then we hadn't talked about it at that time. Then, so I mean, that's how recent it has gotten.
And back to your question on the not finding out until now, we only get, whenever we get our plan back and look at it, like, we only get a month to look, because they do it from 12-month period. So we only get a month to 3 weeks to look at what we have to do. So it's not like we get it in January and discuss it till now. We got it in February, middle of February, and started looking at it then. So it's not like we get it in January to look at it and start planning then. So we have to wait, just like we are now. We have 3 weeks to work with, pretty much.
I will agree that
It's
that
not
is
like
true.
you get a whole year to plan it.
And we get it on Friday and get to look and make a decision
Yeah.
on
I
Tuesday.
understand.
Yeah.
And like he was saying, you know, the employee, everything comes out of the employee pocket. The city didn't put in any with this. This is like the contributions to raising it $80. That's all on the employee. The city's not.
Increasing our contributions, I
Correct.
understand that.
So-
But that is that not something that is negotiated through the contracts?
Yes.
It
Yeah, it
is,
is.
but way
So
I
that-
understood it, it gets thrown out, so we don't get to put that part in. The way I understood it, I don't know.
I don't
get
know
billed
how-
to the to the meeting, so I don't know that part.
What about if we had a representative from city council to sit on the insurance committee that then would be,
The thing is that, here's the problem, is every year we go through this, and it more or less just, oh, here it is, and it's about this time every year. And generally, it's not that big of an issue, because it's, sometimes there are small increases, but this is kind of large, and this is kind of a hit, and especially to folks that get a 2-week notice that their dependent children are going to get knocked. And I'm just trying to, and the thing is the number's relatively small, but I've got to go home and sleep at night too, knowing that my decision has affected those people's lives. And the thing is, every decision I make affects people's lives, either here in my employment. So the thing is that I have to make the best decision possible, and one of the decisions that I would like to make is have you go back and ask whoever it is that you get permission from, is to give us 30 more days for these folks to be able to make some type of arrangements to get some type of coverage for those people, those kids. And whether they're, I guess they're not kids, but they are, they're dependent on folks. So the thing is I think that in my opinion is what I would like to do, and that won't increase our cost or anything like that, right?
so no, it will increase your cost because you're currently self-funded. You will pay the claims for that first month on any individual that remains on the plan. They won't change the maximum that you could pay out, but it will affect your budget because there's two numbers.
What we want to do?
Oh, yeah, it's a tough decision.
And
It is
back to
tough.
your- Hold on just a second. Jim.
Yes.
And back to your question, they're not gonna get kicked off in 2 weeks. They won't get kicked off till January, or December 31st. So they have all that time
Right.
to get insurance.
That's not what they said. on the-
That's not what they
correct.
just
That's
said.
the way I
The
understood
children.
The
children.
retirees would stay on, the
Retirees.
dependents would come
Okay,
off
okay,
4/1.
dependents,
The
sorry.
retirees are on
Yeah.
till December
December
31st, so they're good,
Right.
so they got, months to,
Correct.
but these, I don't know the number of them, but you said 2 or 3.
Two, is that correct?
Whatever.
Two.
Those two folks come April 1st, they're uninsured, and they've got, 10, 12 days to figure out what they need to do to get insurance for these folks.
So I'm licensed on the healthcare.gov, and we would be able to have them a signed up policy by tomorrow afternoon if you wanted to. It's guaranteed issue. Has to accept everyone, and as long as you complete the application, which takes about 30 minutes, you would have coverage by April 1st. So again, is it time? Is it last minute? Yes, but all of these changes are last minute. We just told 150 employees that their payroll is changing, and basically depending if you do the month in or the month before, we just told 150 employees, you have more exposure, your prescriptions are changing, your payroll is changing. And so, again,
And I'm
you
sure they-
direct
And I'm
us.
sure they didn't like it, and that don't mean I gotta like it either.
You're correct.
So,
I think you guys have done a pretty good job on it myself. I've been through the process myself many years, and it's always down to the last wire, okay?
It's
And I go
decisions
through
that
the
people
same
don't want to
struggle
make.
every year, Chris. So you sound good down there with some good concerns, and I'm with you. But I've seen lots and lots of companies, and it's obvious by the committee and him, they've all tried, we've been on the phone. I've talked to some of these people, I've talked to the city manager about it. I wanna know what the city manager and the committee think about it. Obviously, this is what they want, right?
It's a tough decision.
Yeah,
Of course, it's not what we want, but what choice do we have?
yeah,
We
right.
got a shortfall to make up.
Come on up, Don. I mean, we talked for 30 minutes, another 5 minutes. I want to hear you.
We got a shortfall, as a matter of fact, as of December, we were all under the impression we were in good shape. In the matter of a month, all these claims came in, and it went from as probably being in pretty good shape to not being in good shape at all. And we were given a number that we were short to make sure it was funded, because it has to be funded. And through the negotiations, my understanding, because I'm not in negotiations, there was no contribution change with the city. So with that being said, the alternative is we had to make it up through premiums. Well, there was no way we could just make it up through premiums. We had to make changes to the plan, because there's only three ways you can control your cost. You decrease your coverage, you increase your premiums, and hopefully through the coverage changes, you decrease your usage. That's the only way to control the cost.
You've been on that committee a while, haven't you, Don?
20-some years.
Now, $107 a month for insurance for a single, isn't that pretty cheap? Industry-wide or nationwide? I'm not asking you, Don, I'm asking Brian, is that his name?
That's good.
Brian, is that your name?
Correct.
Okay, isn't that for most companies, for most people?
You're on par in regards to the single. So
Yeah.
I would say that you're where the average is on the single. Where you're higher, which majority of your membership is on families, the payroll deduction would be better than what we typically see. But on singles, you are pretty much on par with the national average.
You know, and we've obviously had some claims come in, and that's the luck of the break somewhat, you know?
And the bad thing is, once you have a bad year on the stop loss, it takes 3 good years to clear it off. And by the time you get to that third year, inflation has caught you up to that point, so it doesn't ever go down.
Right.
Just keeps at it.
So it's been a battle for the committee. I mean, a lot of the changes that got presented to us that we elected to put to you all, they weren't popular by anybody's account. We would have preferred to leave everything as is, but, the finances were what the finances were, so we did the best we could under the circumstances.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess I have one final thing to say. When you look at the.
something on this topic before you move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Come on up, Russ.
Come on.
Go ahead, Russ. I'll talk after you.
I'm Russell Robson. I live at 3405 West 7th, and I retired from the city in 2012. And I was told at that time, if I wanted to pay the premiums for the insurance, I'd be able to stay on it till I was 65 and eligible for Medicare. I have a disabled son that this insurance has covered, and that's been my main reason for staying on it, is so he would have coverage. Most of his doctors and all are in Tulsa, and that way he was covered. And so it was quite a blow about a week ago when I found out that possibly, as of April 1st, we wouldn't have insurance. So at the least, I'd, appreciate more time where I could investigate my options and see where I was at. But I appreciate your comments, Chris, on Karen and taking that into consideration. So, thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Russell, when we talked the other day, or when I talked to Marilyn, I was told that you had till the end of the year.
Well,
That's what I was told.
I was told that two possibilities, possibly April 1st or December 31st. So I didn't know which.
You have,
Well, it's been confusing, okay?
you,
It's been confusing to me, I want you to know.
Well, he actually,
That was a possibility.
so let me just, now that it's out in the open, I just want to know, is that man right there going to be covered until December 31st of 2018?
And I pay the premiums.
Right, he
They're not
pays the
paid to
premium.
city.
Is he
I don't
gonna-
get a discount on the premiums.
Is he
I pay
gonna-
the full premium.
is he gonna be
as a retiree, because he fits into both of these
But
categories,
his
as a
son will not.
retiree, he would be till December 31st. Now, how the other part fits in, that's
but his
where
son would
Brian's.
not.
So there's two separate questions, one being the dependent children. As it's proposed from the insurance committee, it would be April 1st would be the last, that would be the change. As it's proposed on the retiree, he would be covered till
April
December.
8th.
And again,
Or
these are two
December.
separate, December 31st, January 1. You could, on the retiree, if you wanted to say, no, let's give them until next renewal, there's no change, because that, it was quoted as no change. This one was quoted with a change, and I told you the pricing if we unquoted it. So two separate dates. One was quoted assuming retirees were covered, and one was quoted assuming dependent children were not, over the age of 26.
Yeah, and there was some discussion that somebody, I'm not gonna say Russell, but somebody like him, okay, maybe him or someone could get coverage for their children pretty quick.
Correct. Through healthcare.gov, as long as your application's submitted by the 15th, which our team could work with anyone who wants to look at this, not just dependent children, we could look at it and have a plan up and running by April 1st.
Is the network the same?
They would be able to choose from, no, currently it's Aetna. In the state of Kansas, the exchange is mainly made up of Blue Cross so it'd be the Blue Cross network rather than the Aetna network.
And with some,
Similar networks.
So what you could help him do by April 1st would not include the current providers in Oklahoma.
So it would include, the networks are about 98% comparable across the different areas.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know which doctor, and again, we're talking about multiple dependents, but I don't know which specific doctor, but we could have that answer, by tomorrow, we could know, is Dr. So-and-so in the network or not? What I can say is we call them the BUCA carriers, Blue Cross, United, Cigna, Aetna. Those are the 4 national networks. And the one that's available in the state of Kansas is Blue Cross on the exchange. There's a couple others, but Blue Cross would be the national network available.
so Brian, in your infinite wisdom, you're obviously pretty knowledgeable about all this stuff. Somebody like Russell in his situation, is it gonna help a whole lot to wait till the end of the year? Or should he be able to find something?
Well, it's, I'm torn. I mean, we're human beings, and we feel for people, and I feel for everyone. I mean, I feel for people that go through the cancer treatments and the dialysis treatments and the surgeries, and I feel for payroll. I mean, this is affecting a lot of people.
Right.
I think that we've narrowed in. We have members taking those large cost drugs. That's going to be a big change to those members.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of members affected by this decision. What I can say is, from where we were at 5 years ago to where we're at today, there's now guaranteed issue plans, which is why employers are changing their policies in regards to retirees, adult dependent children. We're mandated by law to cover dependent stage 26. There's many employers that disagree with that. Should be 21, 19, 23. But the market has changed, and so policies are changing.
Thank you.
You said
Yes.
your team's gonna be able to help him where's your team at?
So he would call into our center in Denver, but we are licensed in Kansas, and anything that a Kansas rep can do, we can do. And if he wants to use us, great. If anyone wants to use us, there was members in the meeting today, whether they said they were going to retire, and we're happy to help anyone look at their options. The one that would take a little bit of time for different members would be government programs, which would be like the Medicaid and Medicare. But in regards to the insurance companies, your application's in by the 15th, you get coverage. And so it would be based on, it's a qualifying event, loss of coverage. So if you did it this month or next month, members can get coverage. If you lose coverage and it wasn't voluntary, that is a qualifying event. Your app's in by the 15th, you're covered the first of the month.
Marilyn, can you reach out to Russ tomorrow and Russell and,
Gonna say if you had a business card.
Yep.
If I need to contact Maryland.
yeah. And same thing goes for the other individual that's in the same situations. Possibly Russ will reach out, if you can reach out to both of them and provide them their information. At least it provides them an option, a direction to go down.
Sounds great.
Commission, my name is Kenneth White. I'm an employee at the power plant. And I'd like for you to know we took great pains in making these decisions. None of them were taken lightly. What I'd like to know is each year, as was brought up, insurance is a negotiated item. We are usually told that no, there's going to be no additional money contributed by the city. I don't know if
Who
that's
told you that?
our representatives.
And who told them that?
I'm guessing
We
that
did.
the,
Huh?
I would say I did.
Okay.
yeah. So my question is,
Why-
would the commission
I don't
be
wanna get
open
into that right
to
now.
contributing some additional funds or not? I know, that's one of,
So-
like you don't like, that's one of those spot questions. You haven't had no
Well-
time to think about it or discuss it.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something that needs to be agreed upon by the commission. And I think if we were approached, we could, it would be open for discussion. But, as we go through budget review,
Yeah, those were budget time discussions.
right.
Yep.
So,
So,
My name is Philip Craner. I work at the power plant.
Sorry, I couldn't hear your name, sir.
My name is Philip Craner, and I work at the power
Philip,
plant.
okay, thank you, Philip.
According to the records, it's been roughly 12, 13 years since the city's contributed more.
That's not true. That's not true. Because I was one that moved to increase the city's,
You did increase it back to what it was,
but we increased it.
because it
And I
took
made that-
decreases and then it went back to what it was.
And I made that motion. So
I
that's-
remember that.
That's not
We
true.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's not entirely true.
Not
We have increased the contributions, but I think that this insurance, there's no way I mean, it's just, my vote's no, so there you go. I don't like this whole thing, so I'm voting no. I don't even have to call for the vote. My vote's no.
No, and what?
No on this, no on resolution.
R-18-14.
There you go.
Guess we're ready to vote.
Okay, but I'm not ready, okay? I want to kind of summarize this thing a little bit. R-18-14,
Mm-hmm.
a resident approved health insurance. So Kendall, have you been involved in this pretty heavy?
Not through the entirety of it, to the last portion of it. I sat in on the meetings, yes.
You think it's a good thing? It's our best choice at this time?
Yes. Now, personally, I mean, there was a couple other plan changes that I thought maybe were worth considering. But this is a employee-driven committee. This is not the city manager dictating what the policy
Right.
should be.
Right.
And I'll admit there was one policy change that wouldn't have affected me, although I do believe it's something they need to consider, because it right now our plan is so rich that it attracts people to our plan, and we need to do something for the long term to balance that out. But again, it was something that would not have affected me directly. I use the same plan as everyone else. I pay the same amounts as everyone else. So I'm vested in this, and I do think of all the options that we saw, there were some that called for drastic increases in deductibles. But considering that we went from worst case scenario of about 18% down to probably less than 5% on a worst case scenario as far as max exposure, the committee did a fantastic job, and they really did make some hard decisions and not popular decisions.
Right.
But I will say that, and I don't know how this plays out, a no vote tonight would, well, we still have we'd still be setting at the 18% renewal rate.
Correct. It would, based off of the negotiated agreements, because the city's amount's flat, it would call for a substantial increase to payroll effective April 1st.
And how much would that be? Dollars and cents, how do you break it down real quick? Just so we'll know.
Why is it this, I don't have any more questions. I don't understand.
While he's working on that number, when you look at the driving factor, what are we doing, I mean, if this is a yearly deal, what are we doing to promote employee health? I mean, you look at the claims and you look at the scripts, it's jumping significantly.
In the wrong direction.
Well, that could be a couple cancer cases.
So some of those, when you talk about trying to use the correct terminology, but for the specialty drugs, you know, that you're over, like he said, that's a prescription that's over $2,000 a month, and they're closer to $5,000 or $6,000 a month. So you're at $50,000 to $60,000 a year for one prescription, and we have multiple ones of those.
Are we keeping track of that? So we know
Correct.
if this is a situation like that? And I'm not saying that that's.
There's
I
two
got a
privacy
big heart too,
officers.
Okay, I'm not saying that I'm not, but are we keeping track?
Yes, there's two
Okay.
privacy officers that get the information that we're able to track the changes. To the insurance committee, we only give numbers. So we'll say it went from 6 to 4.
Yeah, it's aggregate data.
All of the changes that were recommended, minus payroll, which is a hit across all, and the office visit from 20 to 25, all of the other changes are basically being done to control the cost of the program ongoing. And let me give you an example, picking on specialty drugs. Specialty drugs, right now on your program, they're running about $4,000 to $6,000. Again, they can range 2 to 6. Yours are running about 4 to 6 based off of the actual drugs being taken. When we were offering those for, say, $50, members review their options. And so they look and say, okay, my wife works at the county, or if I go work at the county, what's my cost going to be? And when you're not staying up with the industry standards, or what's considered the going benefit, you get adversely selected against. So again, we look at it and say, retirees, if you're covering it and everybody else isn't, you're going to have the members that are looking, saying, I want this period of gap filled, and nobody else is covering that period of gap. So the prescription copays are meant to have members review what they're taking, what options are available. It does impact their pocketbook. And I feel for the members that are taking these types of drugs. Number one, they have the condition. Number two, it's now going to cost them more out of their pocket. But what we want to be going with what the industry standard is, so that we don't collect the unhealthy population. The retirees is the same thing. The dependent children is the same thing. Again, the timing of everything, I'm with you. You know, if we could have made decisions 3 months earlier and give more time, that would have been great. So that you know, and I won't go on record of giving exact numbers, but when we met with the insurance committee in December, the claims over $50,000 was under $20,000. From adding December and adding January, I do know the total amount, it went to 256. So when we met in December, the forecast was things are looking good, we're going to be in a good shape. And even the carrier who had started the quote in January, they required data through January, called us up and made a revision, and all carriers made revisions because our claims in January, the catastrophic claims were big, which then caused the February time period. But I mean, even in January, when we started evaluating the process, it looked good. And so we had to say, okay, what changes can we make that will benefit us 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Wellness, yes. But also from a plan design standpoint, it's who are we covering, how are we covering it, who are we attracting, who are we not attracting, and everyone makes this decision. I mean, even the exchange makes the decision on plan design and how they tweak it and do percentages instead of, they know that people make their decisions based off of the plan design and the payroll. And so we have to do that balancing act, and that's what the insurance committee tried to do, is they tried to say, here's the low of all of them, rather than saying, let's just take payroll, or let's just go with a $5,000 deductible. It's, and what does that do long term? I mean, if we just change payroll, or we just go with the high deductible, to your point, 2 years from now, all the changes, the tier one of incentivizing local care and getting deeper discounts, the prescription co-pays, incentivizing. We didn't talk about it just because it's a very detailed process, but the other change that we're implementing April 1st is step therapy on the prescriptions, which basically, instead of just getting a script from a doctor and going and getting it filled, there's going to be a review that's done of why are you taking a more expensive drug, and there's going to be a little bit, but the insurance committee is really honing down on how do we control the costs so that instead of seeing 12% increases, maybe we see 6. We're going to see increases, medical inflation 6 to 9%. But how do we control that cost so that we don't see it as high as it could be if we don't control it? The one area that we haven't done is on the wellness, and from a cost perspective, we have done wellness programs in the past. It's something that's done periodically. You can test somebody's blood every month. That doesn't mean they're getting healthier, but it's something that's done periodically. We reviewed a lot of things with the insurance committee that you're not seeing today: spouse surcharge, wellness, and incentivizing improvements, payroll deductions based there. But a lot of those, the wellness side of it takes a year or two to put into place, and then structuring payroll. These were things that we could make changes by April 1, and that they felt comfortable telling people these are the changes. Doesn't make it easy.
Okay, I thought we were voting on two things, but this resolution, R 1814, is to approve the employee health insurance.
Yep.
Which our employees all looked at, the committee looked at.
Yes.
But what about the deal with the over 26 thing? I mean, are they both in this?
Well, the age 26 is included in this.
Okay.
The retirees is a separate resolution, and we can still bring that forward at the next meeting.
Okay, is everybody done talking? Anybody?
I just want to make sure I understand from the insurance committee back there. You all agree, reluctantly, I know, because it affects you too, but that this is what is necessary to do to make things work for right now, correct?
Unless the city wants to put in more money. It's just what it comes down to.
That's the reality.
You guys can put in more money, we wouldn't have to kick them off.
Well,
We can say that.
all the changes we made
Yes,
were necessary to whittle that number down to 0,
okay,
to get us out of a deficit type situation.
okay,
And like they said, shy of the city changing their contribution amount, that would be another factor that could be figured into it. But shy of that, we've done what we had to do to get that number.
okay,
It's too late to do that now.
okay, all right.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number R-18-14 for adoption.
Did we want to make that contingent on him being able to
Yeah.
extend that the month for the?
Yes.
Yes, we need to extend
We
it for a
need to
month.
put that
If it's
extending
gonna
on-
lock it in, and all we're gonna have to do as a city is pay the claims, it doesn't affect all the other employees, I think it's a necessity.
So to make sure that I understand, the motion's being made to extend the dependent child 1 month contingent on the rates not changing. So I guess my question would be, if they do come back, which I don't think they will for a month, but let's say they do come back and they say there's going to be a 1% charge or whatever it may be for that benefit for a month, how should we proceed?
We have another meeting before April 1st to
Okay,
approve.
so we'll
I'll
let you
vote
know.
for that.
And
As
then
long as
see
it-
if they'll do
As
that.
long as it extends to the 30-day.
Right.
Yep. Okay. I'll second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Taylor and seconded by Mayor Bauer to approve resolution number R-18-14 for adoption, and that would be extending the dependent child after age 26, 1 month, contingent on the rates not changing.
Correct.
Be a good salesman.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Doan,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster,
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye. Thank you for your time.
You know, thanks, Brian, and thanks to
Everyone
all
that-
the city employees that
Yeah.
worked on this thing. I know about how much work that is, and
I think several of the insurance committee members are looking for replacements for next year. And we haven't had any new volunteers, so.
Yeah, thanks again. I appreciate all your time and effort you put into it. I know it was probably labor intensive, so.
and thanks.
Moving on to resolution number R-18-15, a resolution to approve an agreement with Austin Peters Group for strategic planning services. Kendall Francis will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, before you have a resolution, as you said, for strategic planning facilitation from the Austin Peters Group.
Tell me when we're up here. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The last year at budget time, we had decided that because there might be or had the possibility of a wholesale change in the commission, that we should budget for strategic planning for 2018, and so we did include $10,000 in our fiscal year 2018 budget. Back in December, I sent out RFQs for strategic planning consulting. We received, I believe, 6 proposals. After reviewing those and checking with other cities who have used these services, Austin Peters Group came highly recommended. And per our purchasing procurement policy, I went ahead and signed a letter of intent with Austin Peters Group for the consulting services. However, as we've discussed it here among the commission over the last 3 weeks or so, I felt that there was kind of a mixed feeling whether or not this was really something we wanted to move forward with. And so I wanted to bring that before you tonight, and have you decide whether or not if you thought there was value in moving forward with strategic planning. And so that's where we are tonight. The cost, as stated, is $9,225 for their services. We did budget $10,000. Now, if we were to, I've spoken with the representatives from Austin Peters Group, if we were to disengage today, we would owe $1,980 for the work that's already been completed.
Was that contract, was that in the agreement that you signed?
It's based on an hourly rate, yes, and the number of hours of work that they've put into it so far.
Did we get any good out of that? If
Yeah.
we cut it off now, did we get any good out of that? Probably not.
Not really, no.
Okay. Well, who wants to go first? I'll go first.
Go
You
ahead,
know,
Jim.
I would like to listen to what the 2 new commissioners, they say new, I guess 3, we have 3. 1, 2, 3 that haven't been through it.
I was through it last year.
Huh?
I was through it last
Oh,
year.
you were? What do you think about it?
I think at the last couple meetings that we discussed this, I think Chris is probably hit the nail on the head in a sense, of what the majority of people want.
And what is
Um,
that?
Streets, housing,
Right,
and
right,
jobs.
right, right.
That's
I
what we're
didn't
gonna
know what you
find.
referenced. I got
So,
it.
so we can spend another $8,020 to hear the same thing from a year and a half ago, or we can continue to put our focus on those three areas and move forward. Now, I'm obviously not the only one here that's gonna make that decision,
right,
so.
right, right.
But do we really wanna invest another $8,000 in something that, I mean,
Well, there's also energy goes into it. There was a report I got from somebody 8 years ago or 7 years ago that the chamber did, and I passed that around to all the commissioners about a year ago. Kendall, I think you were here, I'm pretty sure. And that could be found again, but it's a pretty good study about what the businesses wanted, and it's basically the same thing, you know, if I remember.
Was that the
real good.
2013 survey?
Might have been
Yep.
I'm gonna,
13, that was 5 years ago.
okay, okay.
It was a nice package with colors and everything. You remember that?
Well, that predates me, but I have seen the
Well, it's
survey.
the same old thing, streets and everything else, just like Chris down there is laughing about. Anyway, hey, I don't really want to spend it. I got a little upset last time when I found out we already got the ball started. I thought we should have talked about it. I'd rather see that money go to you know, something else. And I'll use this opportunity for the record that just because something's budgeted doesn't mean we have to spend it. You know, when sales tax is down 300,000 for a year, okay, we need to kind of punt, okay? And I really, you know, if the new commissioner really think it's something they want to do, then I'd be fine with it, you know? But I just don't think, you know, with the money we spent the last couple of years and the condition we're in, I think we ought to punt. I think we ought to conserve. And we just got through setting through, I don't know how much, an hour on this 45 minutes on healthcare. And I'm gonna be conservative and say, hey, save our money. Let's use it somewhere else. That's all I have to say.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, so 2013 was the last one, correct?
That was a survey that was done, I think, through the city.
Okay.
The strategic plan that we did occurred 2016, late 2015, early 2016.
I know I heard about a gentleman coming and helping at that time.
John Devine.
Divine,
Yeah.
okay. And how far did that extend out?
Roughly 3 years. Quite honestly, the extent of the goals that were created and which you should have copies of have been completed. But there, to Commissioner Williams' point, there's were some of the same things we talked about. Job creation. We talked about safety. We talked about improvements in the downtown and in code enforcement. Citywide cleanup type of issues were some of the focus of those goals. Street lighting was one of those goals that was included in that.
So, just so, out of that strategic plan that we had in 2013 with the goals that were written out, we completed 100% of what we said we were gonna do in those 3 years.
I think we're probably at, I'd say 95%, something like that.
Well, that, we did that, and it
16.
wasn't 13, it was 16.
Yeah, but you're
was 2 years ago.
referencing
Yeah.
a survey that was done in
Right.
2013.
That was a survey just put together, and we ought, and I'll get that resent to you.
I
I'll
believe
send-
we sent it after the last commission meeting.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think you did. I agree.
So do you feel like we have a direction to go now since we've completed the 100% of the other one?
No.
Okay.
And that's why I chose to move forward with this. But if we're not 100% on board, then it's not money well spent. It just isn't.
Yeah. And I'm not disagreeing with that. And I think we need to have a plan, but do we need to have, I mean, we still have street issues. We still have housing issues.
We do. I mean, there are things that we can work on. There's no question.
So we're working on, Montgomery County Action Council is working on businesses. Did you go to their last meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were there. I thought you were there with me. And then, it's obvious that they're working on a bunch of stuff as far as jobs. I think they're doing a pretty good job myself. Been to most of their meetings. And, we got the 169 corridor deal we're working on. There's a round table tomorrow out at Funk's. That's industrial round table. There's a lot going on. We're working with the water and the electric and the Johnson Controls issue. There's a lot going on, and I think we're doing some good. And I just don't think we need to spend the $8,000 right now. Now we can have people can come to this commission meeting, talk. We're all ears. That's what I started doing 3 or 4 years ago on some issues, and I learned a lot. We can also have a town hall meetings, and we don't have to pay anybody to $8,000 to listen to the citizens. We could do that if we want to get creative. But like I said, if you guys, to me, now, the way I see it right now, Chris, you're not for it, right?
Well, my question is what is the purpose of strategic planning? To give us a direction to go?
Yes, and some achievable goals and steps to make those.
We've all been up here. You've been here 2 years. You've been here 2 years.
2.5.
I've been here longer than that. You've been here, however, and we don't know which direction we're going after we've been here for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and we need somebody to come in and tell us which direction to go. I think it's just wasting money. I really do. And I'm not for it.
Well, like I said, if the commission isn't 100% on board, it's a waste of money. It just flat
I
is.
don't mind. It's just, I looked at your updates every week, and there were 2 mentions in there about it. So we should have been proactive, and if we didn't want to do it, we should have told you then. That's how I look at it.
You say we, but I did.
In your weekly updates, if you
Yeah.
read them,
Yeah,
it's in there in December, because I was being sent them ahead of time, and it's in there in January.
well, I thought we were gonna talk about it here.
Well,
No,
what I'm saying is we need to be on the ball then.
Yeah.
If we see that he's doing something and it's budgeted, like you said, just because it's in the budget, we don't have to
Right,
spend
right.
it.
Right.
But we need to pay attention and watch that, because now we've spent $1,900
Right.
for nothing. Correct, right? Pretty well.
Essentially, yeah.
We need to watch that, because in your defense, you told us.
But
I
it-
was
but-
ready for, can I please finish?
Okay.
I was ready for it. I believe, I don't care, if you already know, there's a lot of change that goes on. And if you stop being progressive with yourself, that's going to make a difference. I've learned that, and I do that even with my own business. I cannot say and go in there every day and say, I know it all and I have nothing else to learn. And because in a year from now, it's going to change. And if I don't stay on top of it, I'm going to go down. Okay? That's all I'm saying, is that we need, if we want to do something together, that is absolutely fine. We need to have something. Yes, jobs, streets, and Chris even mentioned the crime thing. I haven't even seen the strategic thing that you all did. Do you all have it that you could show me?
Oh, yeah, we got it.
That's what I would
With
like.
me, no.
We are the leaders up here, and we're going to have to take control and do and research our things, okay? And I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but we just spent $1,900, and we knew it was going on since December and January. That's what I'm saying, is if when that was brought up in December, and we saw that in his weekly updates to us, we should have probably questioned him
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
time,
Yep.
I don't disagree.
okay? And I'm not,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not trying to blame or nothing.
No, can I
It's
admit
just
something real quick?
sometimes- Yeah, just a minute. Sometimes there's a lot of distractions, and we have got to focus
Right.
on what we
I
can.
didn't pay that much attention to them in the weekly updates, okay?
Okay.
Now, maybe I read it, maybe I didn't, okay? I'm in Texas, I'm in Florida, I'm all over the place, no excuse. But we ought to talk about those things here, is my point, Anne Marie. You know, we have time for these things, and we ought to talk about them here when we're talking with.
That's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
we saw and we didn't want it,
Yeah.
we should have said something to
Yeah.
him here
Well,
back in December.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I don't remember seeing it, so maybe I didn't. But I'm wanting to tighten the city's belt on $10,000 bills. We just got through hearing from streets and parks, or the park deal. And these things that we don't have to spend the money on that's not emergency, I'd like to tighten our belt. Okay,
right.
that's all I'm saying. You know,
And
you know,
we should have a work session where we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what you all, besides the 3 items that you've said, what you want to do.
I think it'd be a great idea. You know?
I mean,
We've got a new commission, new people. We can get out the old surveys. We can get the one from the commission. We did real good tonight in here.
Yeah.
You know, we had a work session. They worked good. And we need to do more of those. And that's been mentioned, Anne Marie, and the rest of the commissioners, they have work sessions. I've said it. I've said we need to have work sessions, meet 30 minutes before every meeting, so we can talk about stuff.
That was recommended by John Devine at the last
Yeah.
strategic plan as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've
So we
mentioned
need
it, so
to-
I'm all for it, you know?
we need to do this.
I agree. So let's put it on next meeting's agenda for 30 minutes prior,
Yeah, I think we should.
30 to get us started.
On specific to strategic planning?
I
Yes.
think we ought to go 45.
45 minutes for strategic
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah. And we can look at the old reports and talk about it. And then maybe we'll decide we want to do it. You know, we need to postpone the guy if we can, Kendall. We need to say,
I'll
hey,
take care
we
of
need to,
I talked with her today and let her know that I'd have an answer for her tomorrow.
okay.
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 Well, but to postpone or tell, hey, we're putting this thing
Now-
off a little bit.
Was part of what they were doing, did that include the April 3rd, where we were going
No,
to? No,
that's-
that's
that's
just us
strictly
on our
staff.
own. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Because I had that down too.
Right.
And, you know,
Yep.
No, that's strictly staff.
okay.
Okay, so
Table it.
table the resolution R-18-15 until next meeting.
You need to vote on it.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to table that until next meeting.
And I'll second it.
Motion was made by Mayor Bauer and seconded by Commissioner Taylor to table action on resolution number R-18-15 until the March 27th meeting. Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Doan,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster,
Aye.
Mayor Bauer,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Resolution number R-18-16, the resolution to support the U.S. Highway 169 Corridor Coalition mission and solicitation of public and private funding for highway improvements. City Manager Kendall Francis will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, before you have, again, it's a resolution to, as you said, support the U.S. Highway 169 Corridor Coalition. What that is, for about a year, public and private entities that are situated along the 169 corridor from Kansas City to Coffeyville have been meeting about every couple of months, and with the idea of putting together some political pressure to lobby for improvements to Highway 169. We know that it's an economic lifeline for this region. It's direct traffic from Kansas City to Tulsa, and we also realize that it's deteriorating and unsafe. If you've traveled the highway there's substantial semi-traffic, no shoulders in a lot of area, no passing lanes. It's a dangerous road, and so as a group, we have been meeting again to try to come up with a direction on how we approach legislators about additional funding. Obviously, KDOT funding has struggled over the last few years. There is some hope from the federal level with the president's plan for money for infrastructure. But as we've seen in other areas, most notably over around Pittsburgh, the improvements that have happened over there have been long sought political pressure being put to lobby for those improvements. So we are starting to put this together, and Rich Prell, who's the chairman of the House Transportation Committee and is from the Parsons area, has invited us to come before his committee and bring this information. And in front of you, there should be a little bit of a flyer. I gave you an information brochure that we've put out. And we've developed 6 goals for this corridor that we'd like to see developed over time. Ultimately, the idea of a 4-lane between Kansas City and Tulsa is our ultimate goal, but we're trying to take it one step at a time, look for safety improvements, passing lanes, those types of things. We've been in contact with the Port of Catoosa and ODOT, Oklahoma Department of Transportation, because this is a regional thing. It's not just Montgomery County, but obviously we would be a tremendous benefactor in those improvements. And so simply what I'm asking you to do is sign a resolution supporting the Highway 169 Corridor Coalition's mission, and that's where we stand.
Sound like a great idea to me.
I agree. Any questions from the commission?
I have none. I move to approve. Any questions?
No, I have no
move to
questions.
approve resolution number 18-16.
Can I second it?
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Taylor to approve resolution number R-18-16 for adoption. Commissioner Dunn.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Oster.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Moving on to the city manager's report.
Mayor and Commissioners, I know it's been a long night. I will be brief here. First off, I wanted to mention in regards to rental standards, Cindy has mailed out packets for landlord licensing, and so if you are a landlord and you haven't received any information about those, if you'd reach out to City Clerk Cindy Price, she'll get you that information. We'd encourage people to spread the word that that information is available. And the registration deadline is June 30th. So we're pressing to make sure that we have full coverage of all our landlords here in Coffeyville. Also, I wanted to point out a project that has just started this last week. Tuck pointing of this building is something that we had approved last fall. And now that the weather has turned, they have begun. We've had a crew of 1 here right now power washing the lower levels. They did bring in a man lift this week, and we'll start washing the upper elevations, sanding and grinding some of the mortar joints and things like that. But work will begin probably in earnest this next week as they have more people available. But just to the public, you're going to see some work around this building, probably some scaffolding around entrances. There will be some equipment being moved around. We may have to schedule, when the work's being done on the north side, we may have to close down the drive-through for a brief time, but we'll make that as public as we can and as early as we can. But so the citizens be wary, because when they're coming in and utilizing the building, just to be cautious. So that project will be ongoing. I do want to mention an award that we received from the Kansas Breastfeeding Coalition. We were awarded the Gold Level of Employee Support Award, and so there will be a press release that will be going out in the next couple of days in regards to that. It's a nice recognition. Mowing contracts, we start accepting mowing contracts, and this is for code enforcement. And so if you're interested in being a contract mower for the city, if you wanted to contact code enforcement Tammy Dixon over at the fire station, and we're going to start that very soon. Obviously, mowing season will be here. Commissioner Taylor mentioned the MAC meeting. There is one this week. It'll be Thursday. It'll be at the Caney Rec Center at 5:30, and still not too late to register. If you'd like to go, just let me know, and I can get you registered. Something upcoming, when we were talking about housing is an issue, one thing that we're working on is the housing assessment tool, and that is a required thing from the state of Kansas. You have to have it completed so that you can be eligible for grant funding. Met with the Department of Commerce last week, and we're moving along with our application process. One of the last pieces to that is that we have to hold stakeholder meetings in regards to housing. So we have scheduled that stakeholder meeting for Tuesday, May 1st. It'll be 11:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock. It'll be right across the street at the Senior Citizen Activity Center. Department of Commerce will be here to help facilitate that meeting. And in conjunction with that, we're developing a survey that will go out probably online, but it'll be a little bit yet for that to happen. But these are just some of the requirements that have to take place so we can complete this. Could you say that date real quick? Tuesday, May 1st. In regards to work sessions, we will have a work session scheduled for next Tuesday, March 20th, and that's at 6 o'clock, and it'll be in the Osage room or the executive conference room, and it'll revolve around the cost of service study that is being completed by or UFS, and so and I'll send you out reminders of that as well. I would also like to make mention we had talked about the commonly called Rails to Trails, the trail, Brownfields Trail project. We have a project schedule, a tentative schedule created. I'll send you the entirety of that schedule. It's going to fluctuate a little bit, probably weather and stuff, but we're going to publish advertisement for bids next week, a week from today on Tuesday. Hold a pre-bid conference the following week, with bids for that project due April 9th, and construction to start almost immediately after. So we're very close to seeing some progress on that trail project. And then with completion, construction midsummer. So it's not a huge project, so weather allows, it should get done rather quickly. And then I think I would just want to end by reminding you that Electric Director Gene Ratzlaff has announced his retirement, and we were joking with him earlier, but his retirement reception will be Thursday, March 29th, and it'll be from 1:30 to 3:30 at the New Generation facility. So we encourage everybody to come out and wish Gene well.
1:30 to 2:30?
1:30 to 3:30.
Okay.
And I'll send those reminders to you as well.
Okay. Is the public welcome to that, or
Yes.
pie and ice cream, cake and ice cream?
I don't promise something you can't deliver. I'm not sure what's on the menu. But that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
You know, that's kind of an interesting deal. I mean, for Gene, everything, have it out there at
The new facility.
the new
Oh.
facility, the new plant. Some people didn't get a chance to see that place. I know they don't want 150 people showing up out there, but there are probably a few people that haven't seen it. Has everybody on this commission been out there to see the engines run? Okay. But anyway, it's a really neat deal. What is it, a $60 million plant? We ought to be proud of it.
Absolutely.
We are.
It's one of Cogfield's, shining stars. And it's just an opportunity if somebody out there in TV land hears,
No,
online wants to.
It's a fitting
show
place
up.
it's a fitting place to have it.
Yep,
Absolutely.
I agree.
So, Gene, will there be people there to, if you're not gonna have that many show up, probably 5 or 10, but if they wanna see the
We'll be lucky if Gene shows up, I'm guessing.
motors run, they'll get to see the motors run is what I'm asking.
No guarantees on that. Depends on dispatch.
Huh? I too many people talking at once.
These are real small compared to the ones I usually work with.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
But the,
These are teeny.
it depends on the dispatch schedule, whether or not they'll be running when we're there.
Well, I know, but they can see them whether they run or not.
Yeah, absolutely, you could see them.
I mean, it's something to see and it'd be fun, so anyway.
All right. Anything else? All right, at this time, we'll open the comments to the public. The public is free to comment on items not listed on the agenda. Please address comments to the commission as a body and be mindful of others who may also wish to speak by limiting your comments to 3 minutes.
Ivan Smith, 1269A in Coffville. I live out here in the country. Hey, guys, you're killing me. There's, you got this landowners deal?
Rental standards.
Yeah.
Reynolds, yep.
Okay. That's one-sided. What about the guys that live in the house and destroy it? You gonna come out and inspect it if I pay that $50? Why don't they pay $50 for you to come and inspect it? They steal my hot water tanks, they destroy the house, I get nothing back.
Well, when we
I-
talked about that topic. Now you're talking, you and I have been friends.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
And we've talked about things. But right now, you're talking about the contract between you and your agreement between you and someone leasing
Tenant.
your property, right?
Right.
And that's, we're not getting into the legalities
But
of
they're,
that.
they're getting into the legalities, wanting me to pay $50 for inspection, that I've never had any problem with that. So does that go from year to,
Well, what
does that
happened-
last until it's used, or do I have to pay
Well,
that
Ivan,
every year?
What happened is we had some complaints, okay, so everybody knows.
Okay.
We're kind of winding this thing down. We had some complaints, and there has been some, I guess, slumlords they call them, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know who they are,
Yeah.
okay? Hell, my name might have been mentioned, your name might have been mentioned,
Yeah.
okay?
I
We
hope
both
not,
got
yeah.
rentals. I don't know, but we had some come forward, and we decided, hey, what's the independents doing? What's these other, so our committee we had all these meetings. One of them was for 2 hours or something up at city, up at the cabins.
Two
up
of
at
them. Yeah.
and we all met and they advertised it some. I was hoping you'd be there because there were some good renters, Ivan, that brought up some good things and we made some adjustments. And this thing's been going on for quite some time.
Now, I got 5 houses that's totally destroyed inside right now.
I understand. Well, I did find out one thing. I've been watching some Fox News, and there's a guy renting a house, and they're ready to rent it, and they said, well, what do we have to do? And they said, give us your credit score. I guess you get on your phone and it comes up, and the credit score was good. Are you checking with them on their credit score?
No.
I'm not.
Right to
That's why I've had
Privacy Act.
problems.
The Right to Privacy Act. I can't do anything. I can't find out where they move.
Well,
I can't find out who they rented to before.
well, I'm thinking about getting out of the rental business. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to sell out and,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it too, Ivan. I don't know. We've been working on this thing for months, and
well, I
If
talked
you've
to my tax lady, and she said I could donate them to a church or whatever. I gotta get it appraised first, and I can give it away and write it off my taxes. So I'm thinking about that real
on the
heavy.
one next to my property down there, don't forget me.
Oh, okay. And, it's like $8 stormwater a month on your utilities. Okay, right now I'm paying like $50 on all these houses. What am I getting back for it? I got ditches. It's a ditch. They charge me to water run down a ditch. Out here on Buckeye, my great-great-grandparents owned that. It was the only house out there. Then they move all these other houses in there. Now I've got to maintain their water, and I've got to maintain the ditch. They won't work on the ditch. I tried to get them to come out there and just round it out so they could mow it. My renters complain about it every time. Most of the time, they have to climb off in the ditch with a weed eater because the walls were straight up and down. And so I went out and fixed the stupid thing. You know, what am I paying that for? $50 a month for nothing, right? Okay, and then wastewater or the sewer water. Okay, I got electric on. I haven't run one drop of water in these houses. And I got to pay a minimum on sewer? What the world? And dump, they only pick up bulk rate once a month at each house. And it's based on whatever. What am I supposed to do with the trash until then? For a month? I can't leave it out in the yard. I had trash out here. A guy left me he was living in the house for 2 weeks. I was called and said it was there that it had to be moved. I said, I'll be home in 2 weeks and I'll take care of it. I can't wait 2 weeks. So they hauled in a dumpster, fined me $550. Buddy that you and I both know, done some work for you too, had the same deal, told him that he was going to have to pay for it. He's never heard nothing from it. He didn't get fined $550, but the whole neighborhood dumped in this dumpster for me, and I had to pay for it. No, that ain't right.
Well, you know, if you have any of those individual issues, to talk to Kendall.
Oh, that didn't work either. Yeah, I asked him about grass mowing, and I don't want to get back into that, but I says, I brought a letter up. Some of you guys that was there were my grandsons mowed the yard for a crippled lady, mowed it on the 1st, the 6th, they come out and mowed it. That's 4 days growth. He says, oh, nobody should have to mow a yard more than once a week. I said, okay, you're gonna take care of the fine then. Oh, no, I'm gonna leave it stand. What the heck?
Kendall, I know we're up on our 3 minutes, Ivan.
Yeah.
And I know you work out of town, and I've been respectful for all that.
Guys, I try to work with you as much as I can, but God, you guys gotta quit
Well,
killing on me.
If there's any individual deals going on, we need to talk to Ivan about. I don't know if everything he's saying is perfectly true, but I can't help but think some of it, that he's called me on a time or two, might have a little something to look at.
I've visited with him more than one occasion.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just ask you that you work with him best you can. I know he's out of town a lot and is working at it, so we're just gonna have to work with you best we can, Ivan. I can tell you, your 3 minutes is up, we're about 6-10 minutes.
Yep.
And
Hey,
you
guys, I
call me a
appreciate
time
your
or two, and we just gotta keep working on it, okay?
Come see me.
Thank you, Ivan.
Guys, I do appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Ivan.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ivan. Have a good one.
You too. Anyone else that would like to address the commission? At this time, we'll take comments from the commissioners and staff.
Okay. I'll start. I keep hearing from some people about these cameras, and I'd sure like to see if we can figure out how we can get some better cameras. I guess it's these right here, isn't it, Kendall? Or
There are those 3 right there, and I gave you the price for them. They're like $1,600 a piece. So if you want to spend
okay.
what is that,
didn't remember that it was
$5,200?
$1,600 a piece.
I'll be happy to buy better cameras.
Okay. Well, we need to take a look at it and make a decision. I'm getting texts every week. Can't we buy better cameras? You know, and I need to go online and look. Have any of you looked at it online?
I have not.
Well, we ought to do that.
I'm
I'm not ready to spend the money right now, but I'm ready to answer some texts coming in.
The answer is better cameras cost $1,600 a piece.
Okay.
Do you want to spend $1,600 a piece for
Okay.
better cameras?
Good question. The end of discussion as far as that goes. Got it, Kendall. Why don't we look at the online deal this week and see what they look like? Because I'm understanding they're like a fish eye.
It does kind of look like a fishbowl because
Yeah.
the ceilings are so
Right.
high, you're
Right.
looking down at everything. No
Well,
question about it.
okay.
But those are $300
Okay.
cameras.
Well, we'll look at it online. Now that we've refreshed here, I'm a little slow sometimes. Let's look at it online, see what we think. And then maybe we'll have to tell, this guy that keeps texting me, that we can't afford it.
I completely agree. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's a public meeting.
Well, he was here a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to mention his name, but he does come.
Yeah.
But he still would. The public would still like to be able to see it better. So I'm going to try to get it online, look at it, I'll have somebody turn on my computer for me so I can look at it and, take a good look at it. None of us have looked at it.
I have not, nope.
Well, he,
I've seen it. It's different. It is, like you said,
Yeah.
it's like looking in a fishbowl.
Yeah, because we're at 9.5-foot ceilings.
Everybody's looking
Down
down.
at it.
It's like
well, I wonder if we could
you
drop
on
the
top
thing
of
down
my
on a pole.
See my face.
Could we drop it down?
You see the
Could
top
we
of
be a
put,
your
bad
head.
thing.
could we mount it over there on the wall and lower one? I mean,
These cameras are not designed for that.
okay. Okay, well, we'll think about it. I really don't think I wanna spend $1,600 a piece. I'd forgot they were that high. So,
If we save
Anyway.
the money on the strategic plan, there you go.
well, we might. It's about what we wanna do. So, there you go. Who was telling us about it a while ago?
Okay.
Alec Hendricks was
Okay,
telling us
moving
about it.
along.
Alex Hendricks was mentioning it. Okay. Thank you. We'll try to look at it and get back on that. That's the only thing I had. Go ahead.
Any other comments?
I have nothing. Right. No.
All right. So at this time, we'll move to executive session for a discussion on employees' contract pursuant to non-elected personnel exception to reconvene in the commission room on or before.
Oh, I have one more thing. I wanted, hang on a second here. I had one. Damon Wilbur's here, and I had something else, but I can't find it. Damon, you're here. I want to acknowledge that we have a World War II veteran in the crowd. Damon.
I'm coping.
Okay.
Managing.
Can you hear us all right?
No,
You can't hear us all right?
and I don't think that's operating either.
Okay.
I hope. It's been interesting.
Okay. Well, Welborn is a 92-year-old World War II veteran. We just want to acknowledge him. Thank you for being here, Damon.
Hey, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Go ahead.
We'll reconvene on or before 10:15.
Thank you.
Who
All in-
seconded?
I second.
She's getting quicker.
All in favor?
Aye.